I do believe it is time. What's up, Reefer Revolutionaries? It's 420 in California. This is DC 420 LA Live.
But I think in terms of marijuana, and legalization, I think that should be a state issue, state by state. I think it's up to the states, yeah. I'm a states person. I think it should be up to the states, absolutely. You know, I know people that are very, very sick, and for whatever reason, the marijuana really helps them.
Good people don't smoke marijuana.
Terrorists keep terrorizing.
Well, Beauregard, your folks are on the rampage in Georgia, going after some good people that are trying to treat their teenager with epilepsy because it takes 6 months to get a frickin' card. So what do? You take him away and then send him to the hospital. Amendments on the Hill, a whole bunch this week. Medical marijuana is okay in Oklahoma, and New Jersey expands its medical cannabis. Weed nuns are back in California. This is DC 420 LA Live in half.
Good people don't smoke marijuana.
Now broadcasting on Weed TV, the Cannabis Media Network. What's up, Reefer Revolutionaries? I'm Dave Conan. This is indeed DC 420 LA, the Week in Weed, the show where we get together, spark up, and talk about marijuana in the mainstream media, the politics of pot, and cannabis cures. And normally, when I say we, I mean that my partner in life and in marriage and in cannabis and in everything for 25 years, Coach Chella. But Coach Chella is at a very good friend's bridal shower in Reno this weekend, so she can't join us this week. Hope you guys all stick around. Daily Dope says he might be able to take some time out of his busy day. He's helping to save Flint on top of on helping lots of people with growing cannabis. But he's going to jump in later, I think, during our Midwest block. And so we won't be totally alone, folks. And of course, I've got all of our regulars coming up in the chat. Real Jingy jumped in there early. Jennifer Schaefer, welcome. I love Daily Dope. He has beautiful plants as well. Vegan Metro is in the house. And just to do some housekeeping before we get started with the show, I'm going to miss Chella today because she's going to she would normally try to keep me on track to keep me moving. And so we don't end up with a 3 or 4 hour show. But that didn't work last week. So I don't know. We'll see. I do have to pick her up at the airport at 9:30. So there is going to be an ending to the show. And I do only have so many videos. So hopefully I can keep it down. But still a lot of news this week. But just to sort of take care of some housekeeping here. Welcome, everybody. This is DC 420 LA, the Week in Weed. We do this every Sunday at 4:20 Pacific. On YouTube, please subscribe, get notifications for when we do go live. You can chat in the YouTube chat. We also have the chats going by of all the other places we're streaming, except on Steemit. I'm monitoring that channel elsewhere because we are on D-Live for the Steemit blockchain community, and there is a separate chat window. So please jump in there if you're watching on Steemit and let me know you're there. But of course, as well as YouTube, we're going out over Facebook. For the time being, we got cut off last week, but came back up. Periscope. We're going out over Weed TV, the Cannabis Media Network, and of course, Twitch. We got lots of folks that jump in on Twitch, and I think everybody is streaming right now. So jump in your chat. Let me know where you're streaming, so it'll come along the bottom here. I'll try to answer questions and get into chat with some folks. Daily Dope's going to jump in this chat here pretty quick, I think. He had mentioned to me. So welcome everybody to DC 420 LA, the Week in Weed. This is, of course, a medical and recreational cannabis show originating from California, where our great state has made it, for better or worse, legal for recreational adult use. And so please, folks, be aware that that is the case here. YouTube hasn't shut us down yet, but there is things happening around the fringes. And Daily Dope had an experience today that I want him to talk to us about when he comes on, regarding this Georgia story, actually. So it's going to be interesting to talk to him about that. This is a medical cannabis show. You should be 21 years of age or older, unless you're Alexis Bortel, who is in the fields working in Colorado at her awesome farm. I'm so humbled this week to have. We know Alexis kind of jumped in last week on the chat. She did. She didn't just. She jumped in on the chat, so that was awesome. And then she went out to her field to do a little farming, and she put out this great tweet this week. I'm so grateful for this. Not many people talk about it, but I was born in Oklahoma, because we're doing a story in Oklahoma this week, but haven't been since my seizure started. I would vote yes, and we're talking about that bill today. By the way, I do listen to DC 420 LA live sometimes when I'm working in the Patches of Hope Gardens. Even chatted some last week with the Daily Dope, and she watches that show too. And we thank you, Alexis, for being a fan of both of our shows. We are doing our little part to educate, as there are many folks trying to do, despite the message being shut down and closed down, not only commercially, where you can't advertise and make money on your channels or boost your Facebook channel or anything with regards to this topic, but now the information is being shut down by YouTube, and I think it's a big pharma corporate cannabis conundrum. So thanks everybody for watching. Let's get into a little bit about some national news this week. We'll start there in the block. Of course, Fox is on to some reefer madness. I do want to get into the Georgia story, but I'm going to wait for a Daily Dope to jump in and talk about it, because he did some coverage on it this week, and as well as the Michigan and the Utah ballot initiatives. So I want to talk to him about that. But let's start on the national front, if you will. Our good progressive friend Elizabeth Warren, as I light up my joint again, is of course stretching her progressive chops with Americans for Safe Access, support for medical marijuana. And but just a side note, she has not co-sponsored the Marijuana Justice Act. But let's thanks everybody for joining the show. Let's just get into the news. So Vegan Metro has it's not going to be as good a show this week. Vegan Metro, Chella is in my state this week. Yes, top of the state. I'm at the bottom. She'd much rather Reno, the biggest little town in the West. But I'm not going to talk about that. Vegan Metro, we will get to the Vegas area. We will get to Vegas. The wedding is in Reno, and she'll have lots to report. Maybe she'll jump in on the Hangout. I'll send her the link, or I might, you know what? I might even take calls today. What if I do that? I've got a Skype number. I'm thinking of taking calls. Do I have enough people to take calls? Anyway, let's get into this video. This is Elizabeth Warren, and she is talking to Americans for Safe Access on their website about her support for medical marijuana. So let's take a listen to this.
Hello, Americans for Safe Access. I sure wish I could be with you in person today, but I'm afraid we're just going to have to settle for this video. I want you to know, though, that I am so pleased that you're all in Washington to share your stories and tell your experiences, both as patients and supporters of medical cannabis. You know, in 2012, Massachusetts legalized the use of medical cannabis, and in 2016, the Commonwealth legalized the responsible non-medical use of cannabis. Both of those happened through voter-approved referendums. In that time, Massachusetts is one of the dozens of states that has shown us what a sensible and safe cannabis market can do to promote public health and safety. But patients and the small businesses that support them may be in danger because of a current lack of permanent federal protections. And that's why I'm proud to introduce bipartisan legislation with Senator Cory Gardner of Colorado to protect these states' efforts. Our bipartisan bill says that a state, not the federal government, is best suited to decide cannabis policy. I truly appreciate your support for our bill. It's time we update our laws so that we can provide vital services to patients and address the stigma around cannabis that has devastated so many communities. So, thank you for being on the right side of history. I look forward to standing shoulder to shoulder with you in the fight to pass this bipartisan bill.
So here we have Republican Cory Gardner, along with progressive Elizabeth Warren. Of course, we know that cannabis crosses party lines, folks, and as does states' rights, which is what this bill will do. I think it's going to be called the States Act. There is one of those already in Congress, I believe. To double check, but it wasn't in this article. I believe it hadn't been introduced yet. So I don't know if it has been introduced yet, but it's going to be called the States Act, and it basically is making the Cole Memo law. Is essentially what this bill will do. So the progressive teaming up with the states' right advocate Cory Gardner on making sure that the Cole Memo actually becomes, or trying to make sure the Cole Memo becomes law, and shut down Jeff Sessions' attempts to mess with medical marijuana states. Now, it's probably, we'll have to read the text, but we'll have to see if, I'm betting it doesn't protect recreational. I don't know. I didn't get that from that video. Did you? DC 420, Django ate my baby. Are you down there? DC 420, you should know how-to videos on growing and get grow product sponsors. I can't grow. I mean, I probably could learn. That actually might be an interesting thing to do, actually. I can't really do it here. I could do a small thing. But I did try to do 6 plants one summer. 5 survived. They weren't bad. They were small outside. But that would be an interesting, a newbie learns to grow. I got plenty of resources now, especially with Daily Dope. Apparently he grows great plants. But I don't know if, Dee, if you do, grow videos. I've just seen your politics videos. The grow videos are the ones that are getting shut down. Django, I worked on Django. Dingo ate my baby. That's the ones that are getting shut down. Those are the ones that are making oil. Those are the ones that are dangerous because they're dangerous to big pharma. So I like your idea. We might expand it, that we might do a cooking show. I mean, we got all kinds of ideas when you're enjoying a little, I'm not sure which one this is from ITSG, but I know it's organic. So probably won't be doing much of the grow videos. We're going to stick to politics. It was our sort of where our heart is, politics. And we'll leave the growing to the real pros like Daily Dope and, a lot of the folks, the Bingus. I like Bingus. Watch him sometimes. But Vegan Metro Dave, it'll be much easier for you this week not having to work on so many camera angles. Yeah, although I do want to bring up the Oscar cam. Though he's over there enjoying his Kong full of peanut butter. But if he gets into the action, I'll bring him in. And if Daily Dope jumps in, I'll be ready for him. I've got him all set up. I've been playing at this for a few years. It's fun. I'm not the best, but imagine what I could do with a budget. Rata mentioned that on Twitter this week, and we have imagined that, actually. We have a couple of ideas. And we'll get into that more, of course, as, hey, Daily Dope. On the way home now, jump it in the chat. Don't get in a wreck. It's a 5-hour show, and the best part of the show is the last 3 hours, as Vegan Metro will tell you. So here we go. Let's continue in the national news. I'm going to start with misinformation and lack of education, brought to us by Fox News. And then I'm going to get into some real good information brought to us by Weed the Media, where we do try on YouTube and other platforms to get real education and real healing out to people. And I found a couple of videos this week from a couple of folks that are doing that. So let's take a look at what Fox, with our good friend Laura Ingraham over at the Ingraham Dangle. The Ingraham Dangle, My Christian Cross. Different show. But let's look at some of the ignorance coming through and non-Christian behavior. Personal. Anyway, here we go.
I thought legalizing marijuana was supposed to take organized crime out of the pot business. Newsflash, it is not. Well, a startling report from NBC News this morning reveals that foreign cartels embrace homegrown marijuana in pot legal states. The reason is simple. According to Colorado Sheriff Bill Elder, they have found that it's easier to grow and process marijuana in Colorado than ship it throughout the United States than it is to bring it in from, let's say, Mexico or Cuba. Federal officials say that Chinese, Cuban, and Mexican drug rings have purchased or rented hundreds of homes in California, Colorado, and Washington.
Hundreds of
Relaxed
homes.
pot laws provide cover for cartels. So is it time to admit that legalized pot in the whole experiment has failed? Here to debate that question is Mason Vert, who's a spokesman at the Marijuana Policy Project, joining us from Denver. Mason, it's great to see you. This is pretty wild that we have Chinese, Cuban, and Mexican mafia / cartel folks renting properties in Colorado and California to get their product out. How is this good for the states where pot was legalized?
Well, this is actually something that's been going on in every state around the country for decades. And now in states like Colorado and Washington and California, what we're seeing is that the demand amongst the population in those states is being met by a new legal market where the product is being controlled, it's being grown and sold by licensed businesses. And because there's still that demand in these other states that are not controlling marijuana, people are still producing it and then sending it out there.
Mason, they're able to undercut the expensive. I've browsed in some of those stores in Colorado. The infused, lavender infused edibles.
Should have bought something.
This stuff's expensive. The cartels can come in, rent these places, undercut the legal pot, and it's sometimes a lot more potent, believe it or not, and a lot more dangerous. And they flood the market with that, undercutting legal pot, not causing it to be a problem.
I don't know where you're shopping for marijuana, but if you've ever been to a marijuana store in Colorado,
your kids are.
You're talking about the prices, and the fact is that you can buy marijuana for the same or lower of a rate than you could on the street. No one is going out and calling around to illegal drug dealers or trying to meet on the street corner. I mean, imagine if alcohol was being sold illegally.
Okay.
I mean,
all right, I get your point. All right, let's hear what Colorado law enforcement, who are actually on the front lines here, what they're saying about this wonderful legalization experiment.
The vast majority of people that we come across at these grows are Cuban nationals. They're organized drug trafficking organizations who come to Colorado to grow their marijuana.
Colombia is to cocaine as Colorado is to marijuana.
And do you think that the state is turning a blind eye to this?
I think they are absolutely turning a blind eye.
This experiment has failed. And I urge any state that is thinking about legalizing marijuana to learn by our mistakes. Don't let this happen in other states.
Final thought from you, very quickly.
Well, there's a reason why Mexican cartels and Chinese drug rings are not renting out houses in the suburbs to distill whiskey and bootleg it around the country. It's
ding, 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 ding.
That's why Donald Trump supports letting states establish their own policies and is working with Congress to pass a law to do that.
We'll have you back. I think it's a disaster, but we'll see. Well, our kids, I think, are going to be on the front lines of having to deal with this years from now.
Boy, what a feckless, no effect. Effect, that's what that means, feckless, no effect. Coming from the Scottish word feck, effect. So that apparently having the advocate and bullshit detector pro cannabis guy on this week, that she wanted to make sure to dispel any of those positive messages that were coming from him, and brought in one of these reefer madmen that are stormtrooping around this country. And now we'll get into the Fed's involvement with illegal grows, with the drug cartels, because we had the biggest one out here in California. But let's watch this next video.
We told you last night about a shocking report that found laws legalizing marijuana have not driven organized crime out of the pot trade. Just the opposite. They've created a huge gold rush for foreign drug cartels. Our guest, Mason Vert of the Marijuana Policy Project, disagreed.
In states like Colorado and Washington and California, what we're seeing is that the demand amongst the population in those states is being met by a new legal market where the product is being controlled, it's being grown and sold by licensed businesses.
That statement really irked Sheriff Bill Elder of El Paso County in Colorado, and he joins us now from Denver. Sheriff, you're on the front lines. You see the results of pot legalization. I have been a staunch critic of this move to legalize drugs for years now. You see the money in it. It is huge money for corporations. Lobbyists are swarming all over Washington. I want to play for you what Chuck Schumer said about this. Let's watch.
I studied the issue, and we've now had some evidence. State of Washington, other states, where it has done lots of good and no harm.
We've had evidence that we need to get votes from progressives and liberals, so we need to
we've
say
had a
we're
few
for
laboratories. The
marijuana.
experiment's been a success. Let's nationalize it.
Yeah, he doesn't want the states to be laboratories of pro-life legislation, however.
That's right. Well, that's a church and state thing.
Well, you know, it has been a grand experiment, hasn't it? We have taken Colorado and we've opened the floodgates, and now we've got black market marijuana everywhere.
And it was said yesterday that
everywhere it's not
the only
legal.
reason this is happening, Sheriff Elder, is because all the other states still have a need for the pot. You can't buy it in all the other states where it's not legal. And once it's legalized nationally, then the cartels will move out. Do you buy that argument?
Not at all. Not at all. The cartels have infiltrated Colorado right and left. Right now, we're tracking over 600 grows in El Paso County alone, another 150 to 200 in Pueblo County that are all cartel-controlled black market marijuana, and that marijuana is being packaged and sold
Not without
all over the
a
East
lot
Coast
of marijuana,
at
Vegan Metro.
2 to 2.5 times its value in Colorado. This is ridiculous.
Well, they just say because, you know, once all these other states legalize it, you know, they won't have it's driven by the desire, by the market. The market demands that pot be sent all over the country, and all these other states need to get with it. I do want to show our viewers statistics that they might not see anywhere else. Here's the change in crime from 2013 to 2016 during the legalization period in Colorado. Colorado was up 5%. Nationally, it was down 9%.
You won't see this anywhere else because it was the only bullshit poll we could find,
12.5%,
study that could find that fed into our narrative.
Nationally, up 5%, corresponding to the periods of legalization. Does that comport with your own experience with the violent crime increase, Sheriff?
It absolutely does. I mean, we've now legalized marijuana for medicinal uses as well as recreational uses. We didn't put any caps on it. Before, you could grow up to 99 plants in a residential zone. Today, we've limited that to 12 plants in a residential zone, and every one of these plants or every one of these grows that we have taken down since the first of the year has had well over 100 plants. Since the first of the year, we've executed 64 search warrants and recovered almost 5,300 marijuana plants that were destined for the East Coast. This is no longer an experiment.
So this is Chinese, Mexican, and Cuban, a lot of the cartels, is that right?
Cuban?
That's exactly right. And along with some Laotians in southern Colorado.
And Laotians.
This is ridiculous.
And a partridge and
our
pear
governor.
tree. I mean, what a nightmare.
Exactly.
This is a nightmare. This is about money, Sheriff.
Nightmare.
This is about huge money. The tobacco industry moving into the pot industry, and apparently we're off to the races. We're going to keep tabs on this, and we're going to keep in contact with you. Thank you so much.
I'm sure you are. As I'm sure NBC, the aforementioned reporting, will also do their part to keep the bullshit going. But I'm not going to, I don't know where I thought I had their video, but I'm not going to, I can't stand this reefer madness anymore. A couple of comments. Welcome Twitch, folks in Twitch jumping in. Jolly Green Giant 82 in there, straight out of NPR in town. Yeah, Big Pharma still makes more money than Big Cannabis, and I don't see the big outcry from Fox News on that. No, Kennedy actually over on the business channel sees the opportunity, and Boehner actually said this week at an event that he expects national legalization within 5 to 10 years. Old John Boehner. So there you go with that. Jolly Green Giant, too many people are consumers instead of being connoisseurs. They don't care where it's from or what's it in it as long as it gets you high. That's so true. it's those damn Laotians, right? I mean, come on. And the Cuba cartel, boy, everybody's on the green rush, man. I mean, I know that. And that Chinese breakup, of course, was the biggest. That was their thing. It was the biggest asset forfeiture in the history of the country. And here's the thing. This all goes into the more illegal now that it's legal category, I think, or at least partially, because this is also being driven by corporate cannabis. This is being driven by big cannabis that they have the money for the licenses, so they're getting their licenses, they're paying off the politicians, and then they're have a license to operate and rake in the taxes for the state. And so they are turning people in that are growing, that are selling, that are dispensaries. And that's a lot of what's driving what's going on here in Los Angeles. And there's a story there in the roll-up in the West. So thank you, Laura Ingram, for your angle on, and rude Christian behavior, your angle on this, these sheriffs aren't doing their jobs. I want to see where these violent crime statistics, how they relate to all of these cartels and their grows. How are they related to those violent? Maybe you should be going out and rounding up the violent criminals instead of the guys that are just making money and with a plant that's not going to hurt anybody. So, but it's all about tax and regulate, the scheme. That's where we're at with that. So it's a battle, but let's get into some better feeling. Let's look at some education, some cannabis education that is not skewed with this reefer madness. Definitely the reefer madness stories of the week, thanks to Laura Ingram. But here's a new site that I found this week on YouTube called From Shock to Awe. And this is a veteran, and I'm sorry, I'll get his name as I'm watching the video, hopefully. I'm a little high right now. But let's watch this video about, this has some really good information about some cannabinoid. A cannabinoid I did not know that much about. So let's check this out. This is, veteran describes how he uses cannabis for PTSD.
What this is an extract of the most active components in marijuana. So you heat the bulb up to a red hot temperature. Now, with that extract, because it's a tropical sativa with a lot of terpenes in it that promote wakefulness and energy, the THC itself is an excitatory sort of sensation. The good thing about Durban poison is also rich in a small minor cannabinoid called THCV, tetrahydrocannabivarin. And this cannabinoid actually promotes the psychoactivity of THC, but it also, since it's a mixed agonist-antagonist, it also reduces anxiety. So this is one of the reasons why I use this particular sativa over others, which generally tend to cause just anxiety. Next, what I will be doing, this is about 20.59% CBD. So this will be a remarkably different experience. And actually, if you use CBD in the absence of THC, it's not really psychoactive very much at all. You can feel it. There's a very slight shift. What it generally tends to do is it takes the head high from a sativa that can make your thoughts race, and it settles it down into your body. You start feeling a lot of pain relief and calmness, a lot of extreme peace.
So that's a great video. You're right. He's not messing around. And a lot of people actually dab CBD and dab. It's a really great way to get that those meds in. And there's a documentary. This is the Indiegogo that's attached to the YouTube channel, From Shock to Awe. And this not only looks into cannabis. And you're right. This guy is not fooling around. We love Durban Poison. That was actually, I think, how we found this video. But this documentary, From Shock to Awe, healing PTSD with ayahuasca, MDMA, and cannabis. So, yeah, this guy is serious about alternative treatments, if you will. Let's take a look at this video. Oh, it's on YouTube. Let's watch this. Let's watch the trailer, because I just found this. I was going to play another educator, but I'm pretty impressed by this, and I want to see what this trailer is. Let's watch this.
They keep giving me new medication. It just keeps me more confused, more in the dark. I don't know where I'm going with all this shit no more. So I told myself, why don't they fucking shoot us? They just shoot us. You come back from the war, shoot me, a bullet in the head. Because that, at least, would be a favor.
I'm an Army brat and a psychologist. It broke my heart to learn that so many of our veterans are experiencing PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, and most of them are not getting relief from their suffering. 22 suicides a day. Just in the course of this Indiegogo campaign, an estimated 660 vets will have killed themselves. These facts called me to action, so I decided to join forces with Luc Cote, who directed the award-winning film Crash Landing, which was about the suffering of vets with PTSD. I'm thrilled that he'll be directing our film, From Shock to Awe.
With this film, From Shock to Awe, we want to share what is working. And the good news is there are some exciting possibilities.
That's why we're here today speaking with you. We need your help to tell this story. Most of the treatments now offered by the VA, Veterans Affairs, are pharmaceutical. Our vets receive prescriptions for drug after drug, which combined leave them feeling like zombies, suicidal and depressed. That's no way to live. They deserve better.
And in contrast, other options are being explored in clinical trials, but they are controversial. Controversial or not, some of them have remarkable success.
For example, research is going on using MDMA, also known as ecstasy. In one study, 83% no longer had PTSD when it was over, and that's versus 25% with conventional therapy.
Wow.
Marcela Otolora, a therapist, describes her experience with both conventional and MDMA-assisted therapy.
The difference that I see between the two is that one of them can take a very long time, and that usually with MDMA psychotherapy, it's very fast. So a lot of people say, oh, it was like 3 years of therapy in an 8-hour session.
Another example is ayahuasca. Ayahuasca is a powerful brew that's been used in the Amazon for centuries by the indigenous people.
If ayahuasca can do anything for veterans, it shows them that there is a peace that you have within you, and you can cultivate that peace and you can find it. And it is possible. It's a glimpse of that. And to me, that's all the hope somebody needs when they're that low.
And there's cannabis, which has been helping so many of our veterans manage their symptoms and lead productive lives.
Necessity converted me to cannabis. What it's done is one little plant has taken the place of all these different pharmaceuticals that I was given. One, for my pain, for my anger, for my mood stabilization, for my appetite, for all this stuff. And it allows me to show up.
From shock to awe, we'll shine a light on treatments for our vets that can relieve their suffering.
I just want it to stop once and for all.
How many more need to die? Don't we owe them? These soldiers were wounded while they were protecting us. Your donation, no matter how small, could save a vet's life.
Well, that was quite the thing to stumble upon, Reefer Revolutionaries. Thanks, everybody. The chat really going off. Of course, Phil Britton in the house, Pirate Radio, on the road in Colorado. What town you in there, Phil? And Timbuktu in the house, talking about lots of stuff, but primarily, here's one that's anything that promotes empathy is a danger to the military-industrial complex. There you go. Julie Love, welcome. Shrooms, it is natural. It's natural. The Paul Stamets interview with interview with Joe Rogan is 2 hours of mushroom gold on all kinds of mushrooms. So, but there you go. From shock to awe, Indiegogo right now has 272 backers have raised $40,000. And there's a quarter of a way there to their goal of 150,000 to produce this documentary, which looks like it would be pretty darn good. Phil Britton, the empathic side of amygdala is larger in artists, musicians, scientists, and hippies. Well, let's stimulate that. Let's stimulate that with cannabis and mushrooms. Psilocybin is talking about neurogenesis. I'm sure CBDs and all that are part of that as well. So looking forward to that documentary, From Shock to Awe, Healing PTSD with Ayahuasca, MDMA, and Cannabis. 83% recovery or treatment successful with MDMA for PTSD, and one treatment. I read about mushrooms where, I think it's mushrooms, psilocybin, that one guided trip on psilocybin and your depression's gone for 6 months. So lots of good stuff, none of which will be protected or usable probably under the right to try Big Pharma bill, which is a Koch brother 40 state invasion, now federal, to bypass the FDA, which of course is the thorn in the side of cannabis and these other substances. But, we'll see. We'll see if we can use the right to try for cannabis. Because really, ultimately, the right to try bill comes down to Big Pharma saying what drugs they will offer. And it's this, nothing's going to change. They're still going to have the ability to say, nope, you can't use that because we don't want that to impact our future approval. But apparently that's what the federal bill does. It excludes anybody that dies from the use of their poison, that doesn't get used in their trials, doesn't get used in future consideration for approval. Nor do, what's the other one? Oh, it's terrible. It's terrible. What they've just nationalized. But I don't know. Let's see if, I don't think it's going to help with these treatments. But let's see who's bucking the system here. Let's see. There's a couple of things. Oh, there was an interesting video. This marijuana use in your security clearance. You have to answer if you've had prior drug use. It's funny. That was good. I'm not going to go into my other story here about healing. We'll do this another time, because it's like a 4-minute video, but we'll move into our first news block here in the West. But that's pretty cool. I'm looking forward and keep an eye on that. From shock to awe. Kind of blown away by it, actually. Kind of blown away by the substance of what they're trying to put together. But let's move on. Let's move into the West. and see what's, I think I don't have anything else really nationally to play. There aren't any really, there's a lot going on nationally with regards to amendments this week. They're going to be considering a number of amendments. Tom Angel, of course, Angel over at Marijuana Moment, and his partner over there, covering what's going on on the Hill. So a lot of amendments with regards to rescheduling, with regards to protection of banks or banking, or protection of states' rights. So there's a bunch of stuff going through. We'll see what actually happens. We'll see what actually happens. But a lot of talk, and a lot of blockage so far. So we'll keep it. There's a lot of action up on the Hill, but not a lot in the news, in the mainstream media. A lot of reefer madness in the news this week, but not a lot of news about movement through the West. Okay, so or rather through the Hill. But let's move into the West, shall we? Let's see. Essential nutrient. I agree. And you know who else agrees? The weed nuns. The weed nuns are back in California. Now, these are some reefer revolutionaries out here in California, up in one of the more restrictive counties. You think we have restrictive counties in California? Yes, we do. As a matter of fact, it's more illegal now in some places than it is legal. Even in counties where they allow dispensing, growing, and other things. So let's see what the weed nuns are back in the news this week. So let's see what they have to say. The reason I had that Bernie funny video in there, forgot the weed nuns said you have to be a Bernie supporter to be a sister, which is great. But here, let's check out this. Let's check out, that was Now This video on the weed nuns. And I like their attitude. I like their tude. But let's take a look at this mainstream report.
You know, more and more states are considering legalizing marijuana, but it's now illegal in dozens of California cities, including Merced. The Now's Ann McNamara takes us inside a unique pot operation that runs the risk of being shut down.
In a California neighborhood,
Oh, I think I put too much in that one.
there is a growing business.
Gosh, it looks so full.
That's also a growing business.
We are rocking through what would be pot plants, very big pot
Puns
plants.
up.
Taller than
One, two, taller, wider, yes.
The women here aren't trying to hide their marijuana habit.
We commit our life to cannabis. We commit our lives to the sisterhood.
Sister Kate and Sister Darcy aren't the kind of nuns you're thinking.
When Congress declared pizza a vegetable, I declared myself a nun.
They aren't even Catholic.
We live together, we work together, we're a bit socialistic. If you look up what makes a sister, those are the things.
Their core belief is in the healing power of CBD, an active cannabinoid found in marijuana plants.
This is our cannabis chest.
They take this weed and put it in crock pots with coconut oil. It hardens into salves and tinctures.
Over here is where we keep our medicines.
They sell them on Etsy.
It's usually full, but we're selling out so fast that we're really struggling to keep up with demand.
Their products don't make you high, but they sure do bring in high profits.
Oops.
$400,000 a year. And it appears these sisters have a monopoly because they're breaking the law.
Everything we're doing is illegal. Those plants you just saw in my garage, they're illegal. The making of the salves is illegal.
But the sisters are expanding anyway.
2 long rows of 12 or 18 plants.
To a new house in a county that bans their business.
Finally, we got the farm.
A risk Sister Kate is willing to take.
I'm scared. I'm nervous. I'm not confident. I guess I'm confident from the standpoint of right will win at the end.
For the now.
But I don't know how long that's going to take.
I'm Ann McNamara.
The Merced City Council plans to revisit marijuana ordinances next month. A city spokesperson tells us until then, police won't actively enforce that ban.
Yeah, that would look bad. That would look bad. Rounding up the nuns in habits. For those of you that don't see the video, they're in the full habit. Bad habits. Bad habits, Phil. Tim Buck, the medical profession needs to recognize psychopathy is a mental illness that reaches to the highest levels of government and corporations. Damn straight. Jeez. But those ladies are doing God's work too. I guess they're doing better God's work than Laura Ingram Dangle. Laura Ingram the Ingram dangle your religion on your sleeve. Okay, yeah. See, I guess they're dangling there, but they're not. They're not Catholic, but they are sisters. They fulfill all of the intent, the what's it called? I'm stoned. I can't think of the word. But good to see the nuns back in the news in Merced, where you can't even grow CBD plants and make CBD oil. It's pure CBD they're talking about there. So even in California, where it's legal in California. Thank you, sisters. Well done. Keep up the good work. Meanwhile, we'll move down south and we'll look at what's going on here in Los Angeles. Because this is an offshoot of what the feds are doing with the cartels and their grow operations. And part of the problem with the tax and regulate scheme, making licensing, and we're going to talk about the Midwest licensing, the Michigan licensing mayhem with daily dope in a little while. But here in Los Angeles, of course, in California, it's still costly, hugely costly to get a license. And, you put that kind of money up, you're going to be a little upset that people are in business because they're not putting the money up, because they can't afford to put the money up, or for whatever reason, they're not jumping through the hoops, or they haven't been able to do it yet. So these legal licensed shops and grows and people and businesses are actually turning in non-legal grows. So the LAPD and the city are doing their effort to help the legal industry and hurt the black market. The black market. They won't pass a law in California that'll cut the taxes because they ain't getting enough yet. So they bypass that. Don't try that to maybe stem the black market. How about let's just go out and take people's medicine away and limit access. Yeah, good idea. So let's see this story.
New tonight, a call to action from law enforcement agencies in California to crack down on unlicensed marijuana shops. This comes on the heels of new numbers showing the state has collected far less in cannabis taxes than initially anticipated.
Our 10 News anchor Brian Schlonsky spoke with a local licensed shop owner who says those doing it illegally are hurting everyone.
Yeah, prosecutors promised this week to step up efforts to shut down illegal shops. Perhaps nobody would like to see that more than folks like SDRC who do things the right way.
Every day, roughly 1,000 people walk through the doors at SDRC.
This is at least 19%.
They're a licensed recreational marijuana shop operating legally here in San Diego.
1548 is your change.
It took years to get to this point, a lot of money too, which is why it hurts knowing how many unlicensed, illegal shops they're competing against.
And it's honestly just frustrating because here as legitimate business owners, we've taken the time to pay our licensing fees, which have been upwards of $75,000.
Zach Rayborn is the CFO. He says the illegal shops take a toll on business.
It's huge. It's absolutely huge.
Unlike SDRC, the illegal guys pay no taxes.
We can only be open from 9 to 9. Illegal dispensaries operate themselves 24 hours a day. They're not collecting excise taxes.
Turns out the state is taking notice. In the first 3 months of the new legal marijuana market, the state collected $34 million in cannabis taxes, far behind the pace of $175 million projected from January to June in the governor's budget proposal.
When you have these competitors who come in who aren't playing by the rules, undercutting everyone and are facing no consequences, it really is putting a bad face for cannabis.
And it's not just lost tax money. Safety is an issue too. At legal spots, packaging is regulated. Products are lab tested. At the illegal spots, you never know what you're getting. Which is why today the LA City Attorney announced a major crackdown, filing 36 criminal cases against unlicensed pot shops. California's Attorney General even asking for help from the federal government to go after illegal marijuana farms. Rayborn just hopes it helps.
We need to have local law enforcement come in and find these illegal dispensaries.
Brian Schlonsky, 10 News.
Tyson.
Thanks, Schlonsky. Brian Schlonsky. And it's not entirely true that these guys are not paying taxes, a lot of them. To operate within Los Angeles, you need to pay excise tax, state excise tax. So a lot of these shops, collectives that aren't quite licensed yet. Now, is that what's getting shut down? Not supposed to, actually. There's supposed to be a moratorium, or rather a grace period for the collectives for a year from the issuance of the first license. So they've had a problem with unlicensed shops in Los Angeles for a long time. It's been an issue since the get-go, because we believe we should free the plant and free the people. And, you know, it ain't cheap to grow good marijuana, good cannabis. So, you know, you got to sell it to cover your costs, to help people. You got to do it. But, you know, they want the licensing fees. They want the taxes. And okay, they want the taxes. They're not getting enough taxes. So what are you going to do? Well, for God's sake, don't lower the taxes like some of this more progressive cities are doing, like Berkeley. The state says, no, we're not getting enough. We better not lower the taxes. Although lowering the taxes how about doing like some cities are doing, just a complete moratorium on taxes in the state of California to get businesses going, to spark industry, to spark business, or minimal, you know, flat tax from just one, you know, or whatever, just a minimal tax. Like the city of, we reported last week, the city of, or the county, I believe, of Monterey, dropped their $15 a cubic tax for growing down to $5. So, you know, some folks are getting it and some folks aren't. I'll tell you one city that gets it is Cathedral City. And this guy, he's got money for the fees. He definitely has money for the fees. So I'm betting they're going to let him operate what he's got going. The Mighty Mike Tyson. Let's see what his cannabis empire is going to look like.
Tyson will soon be fighting for a share of California's booming marijuana market with his own cannabis resort. And Peter Doubt reports you can bet his product will pack a punch.
He's ripping those shots. He's a former world heavyweight champion and pop culture icon. But Mike Tyson is now adding another title, Marijuana Kingpin.
It's a new feeling, but it's pretty exciting.
Tyson has long been an advocate of using cannabis for medical issues and celebrated Thursday the launch of Tyson Ranch, his own 40-acre pot farm in the Mojave Desert, which aims to be a cannabis resort for growers and enthusiasts.
You know, I've been fighting for over 20 years, and I had so many aches and pains, and I don't think if I didn't have cannabis, I don't know what would happen.
Tyson joins a growing list of pot-friendly celebrities who've launched their own line of marijuana products, including Willie Nelson, Snoop Dogg, Whoopi Goldberg, and Cheech and Chong. California's newly legal cannabis industry is expected to hit $7 billion over the next few years. But since the drug is still not legal on the federal level, most banks won't touch any of the proceeds from pot, forcing businesses to deal only in cash. And that's why this week, California lawmakers moved to create a state-backed bank that would handle all that money in hopes of reducing crime. In the meantime, the man once known as Iron Mike hopes to soon be known as Stoned Mike.
I'm very grateful.
Tyson has not set a date for when his ranch will open, but he's hoping it will be a knockout. In West Hollywood, Peter Doubt, KPIX5.
I have no doubt that will be our most pun-filled segment tonight. Plenty of them. Boxing pun. Iron Mike, not Mighty Mike. Iron Mike Tyson. Who could probably use a lot of CBD along with the other cannabinoids for all of that CTE that he's got. CTE? What's the head one that the football get? So there you go. Celebs, they got the money. They're pushing it. Meanwhile, folks that are trying to just, like Jilly Love says, should be treated like roses or tomatoes. That's right. That's what Alexis says. Alexis, like, it should be a tomato. Hello. Free the plant, free the people, people. Free the plant, free the people. I like that. Okay, let's go on to our next problem child. We have LA, of course. That was Mighty Mike opening up the legal action out there in the pot-friendly areas, cannabis-friendly areas. Here's a not-so-cannabis-friendly area. KSBW, Action News. They have one grow they've got going out there, and the folks are not happy. How do we feel about the smell of cannabis? I love the smell of the terpenes, the lemon, I can't think of all the terpenes right now. But I love the smell of the sour diesel smell that some people don't like. I like it, but I love the smell of powerful, pungent cannabis. But apparently these people don't. Not so green in Greenfield.
The smell is undeniable here in Greenfield. Even here at Mary Chapa Academy, which is a couple blocks away from that facility, you can smell it, probably in part to the wind, and parents are concerned about the impact that it might be having on their kids.
Es un olor tremendo.
Greenfield residents say the smell of marijuana is so strong it gives them headaches and nausea. Some worry having it grown so close to
Sounds
the
like you need some marijuana.
not good for their kids.
And this marijuana is destroying our community, and it's destroying our children's future.
They need to be relocated. That would be the best thing. Throw them out in the county.
The new industry brought hundreds of jobs to the small town and promised an economic boost, but the mayor says the revenue is falling short of what they expected.
Now the city was supposed to have for this first year a revenue of more than $1 million, 1.7, around 1.7. So, but the actual revenue that the city got, and that's because of all the tax breaks that they got and the reductions on the taxes. So, the city got somewhere about $900,000, which is less than $1 million. So, I mean, that right there says a lot.
With just one marijuana grow stinking up the town, people are worried about what it will be like when a dozen more open their doors.
Greenfield and the county have rushed to pass policies to allow this industry to come in to do business. We need to look at where the location of these facilities are, if that's the way that it's going to move forward. We need to look at the size of these facilities. We need to look at the number of permits.
And Loud Pack Farms has not responded to multiple requests for comment on this issue, but I'm told the Monterey Bay Air Pollution District has received several complaints, sent inspectors to the facility to look into it, and are now working with the company to improve their odor control devices. But if this problem is not fixed, this could have some negative implications when it comes time to renew their permits. Dan? Aaron?
All right. Thank you very much, Bianca. The residents say they're encouraged to report complaints to the city and the Monterey Air Pollution Control District by calling offices or using forms on their websites.
Encouraged to report the smelly weed, the pungent skunk. Crazy, man. One place. Hey, get your filters better, buddy. You're giving us a bad name. But no, bad name. Come on. I mean, headaches. You're getting headaches from smelling cannabis, blowing in the wind. Give me a break. You need some cannabis. That lady needs to smoke some cannabis for those headaches. So there you go. Trying to shut it down. So they've got one going. They got one going, and they only got $1 million. Wow. Hey, Laylo 333, welcome to the live stream. Thanks for joining in. Thanks everybody for joining in. This is DC 420 LA, the Week in Weed. We do this show every Sunday at 420 Pacific here from California. Chella's in Nevada right now, up in Reno at a bridal shower celebration. So she's unable to join us today. She'll be back next week and telling us all about it. But there you go. Greenfield, not so green, not so hip on the green. At least they're trying to. They better get that tax money in there, boy. They're half as much as they promised. So don't bother lowering her in the tax or anything to get more people in there. 16, was that 16 licenses? Get them all up and going, man. Believe me, people will get used to the smell. It's a beautiful smell. It's gorgeous. It's beautiful. Get over it, folks. Get over it. It's coming. We're here. We're staying. We're here. We're high. We ain't leaving. Okay. Let's go on to, speaking of California, let's stay in California before we go into Nevada. Of course, it is Cannabis 2018 with the midterms this week. Tuesday, we go to the polls here in Tuesday. I was just watching the Jimmy Dore live stream. I had to jump away to come do the show. He's back in town and having some great candidates on over there for today. But we do indeed have an election coming on Tuesday, and one of the challengers for governor is our former state treasurer, John Chang, and he was very much behind this idea of a cannabis bank for the industry, and did a study on it, and that is actually moving through the California state legislature. We are going to have a marijuana-centric bank in California. And I predict that bank will start doing business with other states, marijuana companies and industries that are legal. So that's going to be a very interesting thing to see what happens there. But it's happening. It's happening. We're doing it in California because we need to do it. We need to fix it. It's like outside of the federal system. Screw your guys. We're going home. We're going home to California and doing it ourselves. So that's cool. We'll keep abreast of that. And let's hear what old John Chang, Civilized. I believe this Civilized got this interview with John Chang, and they put the picture, the questions up, so I'll read them with my radio voice, my best radio voice. Here we go. John Chang, California State Treasurer, 2018 candidate for governor. What role do you see cannabis playing in the future of California?
Cannabis will add to our incredible diversity of economic opportunities. When you think about all the areas that it covers, from recreational activity to medical research to agriculture, as we fully explore, as we fully develop those opportunities, it can have profound impacts.
What have been the biggest challenges to progress following cannabis legalization in California?
There were a couple of unaddressed issues in regards to the initiative. Number one was tax administration. At the Board of Equalization, you had the various elected board members treating cannabis tax collections differently. They need to get that square, right? You have legitimate businesses and business owners who want to do the right thing, and you had the tax authority not making it clear, not making it easy for legitimate business owners to pay their taxes. That's not right. This isn't just here in California, but elsewhere in the United States of America, who lose their banking access because they know that they're affiliated with cannabis businesses. Access to credit, access to insurance, those are all incredibly troublesome. It's important that we come together to bring the cannabis businesses out of the shadows. You have people who want to do the right thing, and voters have demonstrated their will, and we ought to fulfill the will and make sure that we make it easier to facilitate this economic activity.
Fulfill the will. I like that. What are some barriers you would like to see removed? John Chang, former treasurer, current gubernatorial candidate for California.
Well, the barriers that we're facing immediately is Washington, D.C. The new administration has taken a course and set us backwards. President Obama, during his administration, the Department of Justice moved forward with the Cole Memorandum. We know that the Cole Memorandum was rescinded by the Attorney General. The Attorney General has been a major obstacle, and he's part of an administration that frankly hasn't provided clarity. And so the Trump administration should deschedule cannabis, and then they ought to provide leadership in regards to clear instruction after that, and support working with the regulatory agencies and others so that we can bank and that we can clearly have a tax administration plan so that we can mainstream businesses. You have thousands upon thousands of individuals who want to do the right thing.
Descheduling, they wouldn't need to come up with any any guidance if that happens. Next question. How would a Chang administration work with local governments to increase legal cannabis business licensing?
Oftentimes people are trying to reinvent the wheel. Let's see what works effectively. We don't want to tell local jurisdictions that you don't have local input. But for the hurdles and objections that have been addressed, that there's information, that there's research been done, let's make sure that we have a platform you can share it so people understand. And then let's try not to operate so much in silos. Oftentimes people feel the frustration of government operating in silos. Make sure that let's look at this holistically to make sure that we're efficient in regards to the permits, the rules, the regulations, that there's a harmonization of the various agencies so that if you fulfill the rules and compliance requirements of one agency, you're not running afoul of another agency's rules and requirements. So let's remove those obstacles.
How can people get involved?
If you're interested in trying to push this along with the powers that be in Washington, D.C., please join the consortium that we put forward. If you're interested in some of the other solutions, one of the things we did was how to overcome the cash concerns, just track our report. I think that would be very instructive. And then most importantly, we live in a democracy, participate in the process to make sure that your voice is heard, that thoughtful solutions are being offered, that you work with others so that we can get the coalitions needed so that we can be successful in moving California forward.
And that actually was not civilized. That's marijuana.com that got that interview with former or current treasurer John Chang running for governor. And yeah, he has been part of that coalition, that consortium, or I think what he called it, of getting this banking situation handled here in California. So that's a very intriguing possibility to vote for here in California. It's so crazy. This top two, we might end up a Nazi running against Dianne Feinstein in November. But folks watching the Jimmy Dore show know that. Allison brings that up in Chank, of course. But let's see. Jimmy and Dave, like a good old Sunday baseball doubleheader. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Timbuktu. Appreciate that. Vegan Metro, thanks. But let's see, there was a, Alexis is not in the chat, but we are being broadcast in the Patches of Hope Garden. Alexis is at a party. So, hey, everybody out there in the garden, growing that amazing medicine. And I'm not sure who is in the chat. If it's Dad, maybe. But for the smell in Colorado, if it is zoned agriculture, it is smell statute exempt for good and obvious reasons. So yeah, if you ever drive through Ventura County or Moore Park, you go through the garlic fields and the asparagus fields, and and then there's, of course, not in California, the pig stuff in some states. So give me a break. Give me a break. I guess they're going to have to figure out how to deal with it in the commercial aspect of it, and filtration is supposed to be part of it in the cities. But we'll see. We'll see. MDN Niles, can anyone recommend a good online CBD tincture? Good question. Would love anybody who has good recommendations or folks that have been around the web for a little while. We have a couple that we are looking at and have found out about, straight ones that good industrial hemp, quote, legal in all 50 states, questionable, from Kentucky and Colorado that we follow. And I just found out another one today. Maybe I will play that video about this this young lady out here. I think she's in California. But good question, MD and Niles. And holy cannabis oil. I bet you know what's going on. And I'll bet he does too. Holy cannabis oil. And thanks for watching Holy Cannabis Oil. There you go. Hooked up on DC 420 LA, the week in weed, with legal in all 50 states, industrial hemp cannabis oil. So get your medicine on. Thanks everybody for watching. Subscribe, get notifications for as long as they'll have us here on YouTube. We are on D-Live for when all the corporate cannabis and big pharma shuts us down on all the corporate platforms like Facebook and Periscope and YouTube and Twitch. We are on Twitch, but are building up our viewership over on Twitch. That's really cool to see all the gamers and folks coming in over there. Thanks everybody. And D-Live, the blockchain, the Steemic community, we're going out. They have a great app going out over there. Seems to be working flawlessly. A couple of folks in there today too. So thanks everybody for watching. Do whatever you got to do on whatever social media platform you're on at DC420LA. That is our handle. Thumbs up, like, share, upvote, steam, subscribe, re-steam, get notifications. Whatever it is they make you do, whatever hoops they make you jump through to get this information out. Or you can listen to Phil Britton, Pirate Radio, 100 watts of power, broadcasting throughout Colorado on the road in some locale. Where are you broadcasting today, Phil Britton? Thank you so much for getting good cannabis education out there. And welcome, Alexis folks over there at Patches of Hope Garden. Thanks for tuning in to DC420 LA. Daily Dope's going to jump in here pretty soon. I think if he can make it in, he's out saving lives for people making medicine and working out in Flint. So he's doing, I forgive him for not jumping in and helping me out with the Cello-less broadcast this week. Maybe Cello will check in here sometime. Give me a call, babe. I'll put you on speaker. Anyway, let's move on. Let's move on to a show. This is a, let's see. This is sort of a Nevada-California crossover. And this falls in the stop making us look bad category. And I think you'll know what I'm talking about when you see this story.
10 trouble on a Southwest Airlines plane heading to LA after a passenger allegedly tried to get sky high during the flight. He was busted for smoking pot in the lavatory. Smoke alarms blared soon after a Southwest Flight 1250 took off from San Francisco for LAX.
And the pilot, concerned about a fire on board the plane, diverted that flight to San Jose. KCON9's Crystal Cruz is live in Burbank right now, where many of those passengers finally ended up there tonight. Crystal?
Yeah, you guys, and tonight one of the passengers said he did smell marijuana. Another passenger told us he smelled smoke. Both described a huge inconvenience. Tonight, here are some photos taken inside that plane. Let's have a look. You can see firefighters talking to the man caught smoking in the bathroom. A passenger told me he heard an alarm go off, a loud screeching alarm, something he's never heard before, and he travels a lot, so that's when he knew something was definitely wrong. Then the plane took a sudden drop, and it landed in San Jose. A huge upset to people on board who realized another 30 minutes or so they would have landed right here in Los Angeles. The passenger says the pilot got on the intercom and told them a man was smoking, and that's why they had to divert. Some passengers hopped onto a plane to Burbank. Another passenger stayed at home. One shared his experience with us when he got here.
Looked like that someone needed to smoke a joint on a plane, and he went into the bathroom, smoked his blunt, set off the fire alarm. And that was at first we were like, ooh, that's weird. And then the plane took an immediate drop after there was, and that was a little bit scary because I guess the pilot had to turn everything around.
And some of those passengers were rerouted and given a $100 voucher. Also, it is illegal to carry marijuana on a plane because the airlines are regulated by the feds. I'm Crystal Cruz, live in Burbank. Tonight, I'll send it back to you guys in the studio.
Yeah, try the vape. I don't know if the vape may even go off in the lavatory of a plane too. But I don't think you can technically travel with a marijuana vape either. I mean, it's easier I would think it's easier to hide or, move it through. But because of the e-vaping, e-cig trend. Yeah, first of all, get up out of the seat and walk to the bathroom after you've used a wheelchair to get on the plane? I'm more pissed about that than I am about him smoking a blunt in the bathroom, I guess. But, yeah, stop making us look bad, dude. This kind of stuff is not helpful. Hey, I see Brando. The commando.
I'm back.
Fantabulous. And you caught that. Did you catch that video there, Brandon, about the guy who, who got busted for sparking up in the John on a flight from Vegas to L.A.?
No, and I didn't even know about that.
Yeah, it was in. I won't replay it, but and here's the rub. He goes in. He gets on the plane using a wheelchair. Now he may be handicapped. I'm not saying he's not, but he gets up out of the seat as soon as they're at height, at altitude, and walks to the bathroom. And then he sparks up and walks back to his seat and sits down. And everybody's like, "Hey, somebody just lit up a joint in the bathroom." So I don't know if I think I'm more pissed that he used the handicap access to get on the plane. If he's not actually handicapped, but yeah, funny story. How you doing there, Brando?
Pretty good, I guess. I feel weird sitting at my computer because I feel like this computer is compromised.
You know, that you dropped that news. Like, did that get catch us up? I want to.
Right.
Are you okay to talk about that? I find it because it's just in this YouTube. So here's the deal, folks. We're in a middle of a YouTube purge on for cannabis content. And we talked about it here on the show and Brand. I'm just trying to get your shot up here. But we've talked with Brand on the show and about this, and a little bit concerned because one of our videos on another channel got hit with a community guideline strike for a CBD video. Ooh. And then so we're talking about this Georgia story, which we'll get into as soon as we're on the South Block. Maybe we'll move into that. But so Brandon, tell us about you were going to put up a video about that Georgia story and what happened.
You know, I really don't know what happened. So here's the exact story of what went down from what I could, what happened to me is I was uploading the video, and actually I had two videos, and they were both uploading simultaneously, which is usually not a problem. My internet connection was, I have Metro PCS, and I was doing the hotspot, which is usually 100% reliable for this kind of thing. And I basically, I had, this is the beginning of the month, so I have plenty of data. There's none of this stuff could possibly be the reason why this happened. But while I was uploading the two videos, one of them was an update about the Michigan deadline for medical marijuana dispensaries, and then the other one was my commentary about the Georgia situation with the sheriff there,
right,
and the family that's fighting for David. And so basically what happened is as the videos were uploading, the Michigan video uploaded and it was done, and it was like 20 minutes gone by, and I'm kind of like in a hurry to get out of the house because I have a few errands to run. So I'm like, well, I'll just go ahead and see where it's at. And if it's too far, I'll just leave my phone here. So, because that's the internet connection.
Right.
And if it's, if it's almost done, I'll just wait a few more minutes. And I noticed that it says it's got 2 hours to go. And I'm like, what? Why would it have 2 hours to go? It wasn't that long of a video. It was only like a 15-minute video. And the other one was about the same length. So, and it only took about 10, 15 minutes total to upload and process and everything. So I was kind of like, what's going on? And I looked and I noticed that the internet connection wasn't connected. And I didn't get any kind of an alert saying that it was unconnected or that I got disconnected. And so at this point, it's like, all right, I really got to just get out of the house. So I'm going to copy the file from my hard drive to my phone and take it, upload it along the way. And the folders are all still open. I go to the folder that it's in and it's not there. And I mean, I swear, there's nothing, no one touched the computer while all this was happening. And there's no way that this could have got deleted.
Did they ever show up, or are they still gone?
The file is gone, and it was not in the recycle bin. It was not in the original capture folder. It's just gone. Like and then I did a search for it, searched the whole computer, and the search came back, and I did post a picture of the search on Twitter, but it came back with, like the file's still there in some temporary folders. And when you look at it, it says it's a shortcut.
Right.
And then when you click on it, it says the shortcut leads to a file that's no longer there.
Right.
Do you want to delete the shortcut? And that's just like freaked me out. Like, wait a minute. No, there's file's got to be somewhere.
And you're not too high.
I was already, Huh?
You're not too high that you forgot where you put the video.
No. It's specifically in
You
the
weren't just
June
dabbing
folder
prior
for
to doing this.
2018. That's where it's supposed to be. And I mean,
Because the weed is really powerful these days. So that's really freaky. And I just to throw on top of that, of course, my paranoia is going off a little bit. Maybe it is the tropical fruity sativa, but I went off the air. My internet connection went down 20 minutes, half an hour before the show, completely.
I've seen that.
And it came back, but there's definitely been a throttling that I'm noticing of service and interruption of service.
Well, last time I was on the show, we was having really bad lag problems. Like half the videos streamed, I couldn't even really tell what was going on.
That's right. That's right. And it's better today. And, and they say, I mean, there was this thing that was out that you should reboot your modem because there's a malware that's being put out there that's tracking and doing all kinds of stuff. So I did that. I do that almost all the time, And so, but today I did that too, when it happened. But yeah, I don't know, man. I think it's a lot. I think it's a combination of stuff, but I think it's throttling. I think it's just trying
that feels to me like somebody
information.
just reached right in my computer and deleted this file. And then I don't know. I mean, I can't explain it any other way. Files don't just disappear like that.
They tend not to. We look forward to an update on this mystery. Did you get were you able to upload? You just got home, so you're gonna try to upload it again?
Before I called into the show, I looked everywhere for the file, and I did a reboot after all this happened, which I was kind of nervous about doing. And I mean, unless somehow you can rewind my computer back to a time before it happened, I don't know how to get the file back. So I'm either going to have to reshoot the whole. Now the thing about it is, it makes me the thing that makes me mad about it the most is I don't really remember all my talking points per se. Right. I mean, I do, but I don't.
That's why we record this shit. That's why we go live.
You really can't do a redo on a video like that. It's really kind of annoying because I can remember the points I made. Like I was pretty mad about, people calling death threats into the sheriff because that kind of makes us look bad. And I understand the high emotion in this case. But I also made comments about the GoFundMe, and I basically kind of made a few counterpoints to what the cop said, and commented on some of the things that he said. So I don't know if you did that story already.
I have not. Well, let's do that because I'm pretty much done with the West. There was a good story out of Nevada about I'll throw it in at the end of the show. But since you're with us and we want to talk about. Let's talk about the story that really, is causing this controversy. We're not saying.
I mean, everybody's talking. This is one of the few stories I've seen lately, which this is really tragic, and it happens from time to time. But this is the first time I've seen it where parents just actually smoke joints with the kid.
Right.
And one of my points was that's huge. That's the thing that they don't want anybody to know about.
Right.
The anecdotal evidence that they don't want anybody to see, especially the fact that when the kid went back to the hospital, immediately seizures and the worst ones.
Yeah, that's all right. So let's look at this story. This is from WMAZ 13 out of Georgia. Oops, wait, let me take it off mute. This is a local station.
A Twiggs County couple has stepped into the national spotlight after deputies arrested them for giving their teenage son marijuana to smoke. The couple said they did it because the marijuana stopped their son's seizures.
Zach Merchant broke the story last week and has tracked it ever since. He joins us live in studio to explain the nationwide attention the story is getting.
Yes. I can't see anything. I can hear it.
Past 6 days, this story has been picked up by media outlets all across the country. That's brought a whole lot of attention down on the couple and law enforcement involved in their arrest. Not all of it has been positive. Last week, we introduced you to Matthew and Susanna Brill, a couple that openly admits they gave their teenage son marijuana to smoke.
I smoke it first. I know where it comes from. I know my people. Made sure the bag was good. Packed the bowl in my bowl, which I ain't been anywhere else. And I set it on the table and told him that it was his decision.
According to Twiggs County Sheriff Darren Mitchum, what they did was against the law, and the couple was arrested for reckless conduct. But they say they were doing it to keep their son safe. They claim marijuana stops his seizures, and it's that aspect of the case that has, at least in part, helped catapult the Brills into the middle of the national conversation on marijuana legalization and given them plenty of supporters around the country.
the bottom fell out of it at 2 days after all this.
Their story has been told in national media all over the country, and in less than a week, they've raised over $20,000 on a GoFundMe page.
But I can say that it's been the biggest impact in my life, period.
But not all the support has been positive. A Twiggs County Sheriff's Office spokesman says their office has been swamped with calls, and some of them have been threats, like this one from an unidentified caller.
Yeah, you try to take away my kids and see what happens. I'll shoot you all.
Sheriff Darren Mitchum says the angry calls have been mostly from marijuana supporters who believe the Brills shouldn't have been arrested at all, but he's standing by the charge.
Or just freedom
Had I been
lovers.
there, and I'd have been the one with the defects worker, I'd have made the same decision.
Yeah,
the deputy has a job to do. I think the charge was appropriate. There could have been more that he could have charged him with.
Yeah.
Steve Sadow, a lawyer representing the Brills, says he condemns any threat to law enforcement, but he's also asking for the criminal charges against the couple to be dropped. Lori, back to you.
Last week.
Yeah, we could, if they were black, we could have thrown a bunch of more charges at them.
Unbelievable.
But,
you know,
I mean, that's ridiculous.
That was the one talking point. I couldn't remember exactly what I came back with when the cop says, when the sheriff said he defended his deputy because, what else was his deputy supposed to do? Basically, he was saying that his deputy was witnessing someone break a law and that they have to enforce all the laws. But that's not true. I can throw you a book full of laws that they no longer enforce.
That's right.
I used to have a meme generating, like, I don't know what you'd call it, like a thing on Facebook called Simple. It's just basically stop enforcing marijuana prohibition laws. And it's the right thing to do. And I've read from LEAP, representatives from LEAP, Law Enforcement Against Prohibition, where they have said that you don't have to enforce a law like the marijuana laws. You do not have, there's nothing that tells you have to do that. But what I did say, and I remember from the clip, is that the reason that cops will always say that is no matter how high up on the food chain they are, like that was a sheriff that said he was defending his deputy, no matter how low on the food chain you are or high on the food chain you are, there's always somebody that's higher if you're a cop. And if you're the top cop, then you're the donor is your boss, apparently. And, it's ridiculous that they can't stand up for themselves to not enforce a law that's unjustifiable. And, it just harkens back to, during the concentration camps when the SS soldiers would say, well, I'm just doing my job as they load somebody into a gas chamber. I mean, it's the same mentality that we're looking at right here.
Well, yeah, because they actually want to enforce that law because they're a-holes.
Yeah, that's a big part of it.
And what's one of the big points in the story is that it's 6 months to get permission to use the CBD oil that is legal in Georgia for this condition. I think that's the point, is that it's going to take 6 months, and they have found a way, which they were probably like, hey, look, they use this in Israel. They vape cannabis in Israel. This, it's whatever, but it's like, hey, look, people smoke and stuff and symptoms go away. They use it, or this is the only way we can get it. It's from my guy that I know I've been smoking. That's part of it too, right? I mean, he's like basically saying I'm in the black market.
They did try hemp-derived, legally purchasable CBD products that you don't have to go through Georgia's really restrictive medical marijuana program, which from what I understood was that they were on some kind of a 6-year waiting list or something like that. I'm not sure what that was, but I know that they had already went through the exhaustive process of being ready to apply for a medical marijuana card,
right?
Which is you have to demonstrate that you've used all the other known, treatments for your ailment. And if you read the Georgia medical marijuana law, it'll automatically make you mad. But you got to realize that after you read it, that there's none of that stuff that they say that people can use available in Georgia.
Right.
There's no provision for production, and there's no allowance for importation. So anybody that has that kind of CBD oil is already breaking the law. But another thing that you might want to remember about the case is that these people specifically said that the CBD did not work. The CBD only did not work. And the other thing that I think is so marvelous is that all they were doing was smoking joints with this kid.
Right.
And he was 71 days seizure free. Who knows what the joints were? Because their marijuana is all unregulated in Georgia. So when you're in Georgia and you're like the guy said, I know what my guy has. He's not going to screw me over. He might have been getting something that was like some kind of CBD related stuff. I'm not sure about that.
Right.
But to me, I feel like he was basically specifically just talking about getting what is considered medical marijuana in a black market situation like what Georgia's under. That generally means just some really good bud. And
Right.
You're
Oh,
lucky
no,
if the name that they say it is like, hey, here's some OG Kush. You're lucky if it's anything related to that. You know, like I'm not 100% sure how black markets work in places like Georgia these days because I haven't been around in a while. But if you know what I mean. But I'm just saying generally that's kind of what I'm getting a picture of in my mind.
There's a lot of California weed going to Atlanta, you know. I mean, and there's plenty of people growing it there. A lot of people, a lot of people transplant from Georgia to Colorado, and they grow really good weed. Atlanta is a huge consumer of cannabis. So yeah, I'm sure he was getting good stuff. And it's all about if they're trying to protect the kid. Here we have, like you say, they've exhausted a whole bunch of stuff. They're going through the process. They're trying to get legal use with the medical stuff. They're trying to get stuff online, which, the legal stuff, which is sketchy. If you don't know your sources, like we're talking about in the chat with holy cannabis oil, you don't know where to get your good CBD oil necessarily, because there's a lot of crap out there too. But just trying to make a dime, and that's bullshit. But So here we have a parents that are doing their due diligence to do the best for their kid. They find something that's like, well, gee, what if it's as easy as like Jimmy Dore said today on his show? All these guys are throwing poison down my throat to try to get me to not be nauseous. And Steph says, why don't you smoke a joint? And one joint, and he's done. He can eat, he can drink. Everything's fine. So this kid's puffing, one or two joints, maybe smoking a joint with his dad, probably, which is a fucking rite of passage.
Right.
especially for stoners.
As a parent, that's what you would want to see.
Yeah,
you don't want
absolutely.
to tell your kids how bad weed is, and then of course they're going to be smoking it behind your back. I mean,
now granted, there's another couple this week that got busted because there's cocaine in the kids' system. So hopefully that don't escalate to that level.
To be honest, when you look into it, this happens a lot. Like parents are getting busted for medicating their kid or dosing their kid with something to help the kid fall asleep. And this claim that the sheriff said, this is tantamount to when kids do that kind of thing, like give a kid a methamphetamine so he can go to school because hasn't slept, or give him some Benadryl or something really strong to make him sleep, or opioids. I get that people do that, and that's very dangerous. But when you get that other case where that woman was charged for her kid accidentally ate a medicated brownie, I believe it was, and I think this was out west, I believe, right, Nevada or somewhere.
Is that the one where you mean where they injected the chocolate this week?
Yeah, and the cop said in that case the cop was like, yeah, this is this was a overdose that was a life-threatening overdose. And it's you couldn't be any farther from the truth. It's like, sure, when you're saying that you're making strict laws about child endangerment and all this stuff because of the fact that the parent was giving a kid like a Xanax or something that legitimately is dangerous to give to children and infants and not even legal. And even if you get a prescription, you can't even get one for a toddler, I don't think. In a lot of these cases,
you can't.
It's like, I understand that, and I have a little bit of sympathy towards law enforcement and the, parents and stuff to be afraid for stuff like that. But when it comes to cannabis, this is a totally different ball game, man. And there's no science to say how dangerous it actually is. And this overdose that we keep hearing, the reefer madness people talk about, the hospital visit increases for these overdoses. I don't even like the characterization of overdose because of the bad connotations that come with that. I'll grant you that it is an overdose. They took too much of THC or whatever, and there is some effects that you have to deal with when you do that. But to say that it's life-threatening, or to put somebody in a situation like a parent where they're going to lose their kids and they're going to go to prison or jail over it, or have to pay some crazy fines, it's not right, man. And it's another thing that not enough people, it's like the stigma is so hard on just little things that when you talk about stuff like this, you get people that are really, thinking that marijuana is a really bad thing, I guess. I don't know. The education.
Well, here's the thing, Brand, you can't say it's a life-threatening situation when cannabis has never killed anybody. So it's ridiculous. If are they having a reaction? Should they start it with a smaller dose? Yeah, probably. But yeah, you can get through that, and they all do. They all do.
And there's no
Some of them even
I've never seen
to
permanent
school.
damage. Like some of these overdoses from opioids or other drugs cause you lose your breathing stops, which can cause brain damage.
Right.
And that's a real situation. Or when kids accidentally stumble upon their parents' guns that they leave out, and that's 1,300 kids a year are dying from that.
Yeah.
But what if they don't die? Then there's permanent injury. We're talking a lot of problems there too. I mean, and I'm not saying that parents should be arrested for these negligible things that they do and taking their kids taken away and all that. I'm not trying to throw anybody else under the bus here, but it seems to me like the focus has been on weed, and the public hysteria about parents doing negligible shit always falls on the weed people. And then
it's always about the
story.
children. It's always about the children. Laura Ingraham, we can't do this to our kids. The cop.
Oh God.
We can't do this
Laura
to our kids.
Ingraham, she's just horrible.
It's
but another thing about that story is I did notice a tweet from Tom Angel about it where he called the sheriff a motherfucker.
Yeah, I saw that.
And my comment on that is that we try to be cordial and watch our language as much as we can when we do these reporting on weed stories, clips and shows and stuff. But the thing about it is, man, and we know that we have elderly people in the audience and kids in the audience, and they're just trying to get valuable information that's going to help them in their own situation and stuff. And I understand all that. But, man, it is very hard to walk through these stories and read this tragic shit happening to people over fucking marijuana, man. I just can't understand it. And I'm in the middle. I'm almost done reading the book about the Rainbow Farm murders that the government did in Michigan. Which happened, by the way, like the week of 9/11 in 2001. So that's kind of why it got lost in the memory hole, because at the time those kind of incidences were happening. Like we had the Ruby Ridge and we had the Waco, where the government was murdering U.S. citizens. And quite frankly, like this one just kind of got swept under the rug because of 9/11 and because it was about weed and all that stuff. So when you read about these tragic situations, man, it brings up some really dark emotions, to say the least. So, I don't know if I was making some apology for our language or not, but it just,
they are listening,
man. We can't read through this shit and realize the struggles that people are going through in this realm. It's just too hard, man.
They are listening in the Patches of Hope Garden. So,
hi guys.
But Alexis is at a party, so we're okay. But she doesn't mind it. Yeah,
what I just said.
Absolutely. And it does not a problem, and she's the first to criticize what's going on. So that was a pretty cool tweet we had from her earlier in the week. So we appreciate,
God, yeah, I forgot
we appreciate
about that.
Alexis.
Yeah, that made my day, man. It really
I know it was pretty cool. Well, that's great insight, and appreciate. Glad we were able to re-stimulate some of your thoughts on that video that they're trying to suppress.
To be honest, I think I might have just got all them talking points back there. I don't know if there's anything else I said on there that needs to be and you can't delete this video. It's already out there.
It's live, and they haven't shut us down yet. They're not like stop it now. Yeah. No, it hasn't.
But
it hasn't come through.
Shit they don't want out there, man. They don't.
Well,
want
they covered it on CBS, but it's all part of the mainstream narrative. It's all part of the whole narrative. Like, oh my God, we have to make sure that marijuana they know it's bad, and all of these organizations are out there in force, sending out their allies in the law enforcement to spread nonsense. When you have now a bunch of stuff going out today, this week, I saw new studies on how cannabis doesn't actually impair you when you're driving. Oh, and guess what? Colorado accidents are actually down. They cherry pick this stuff. I mean, Ingram, I'm sure, had to find their, oh my God, look, violent crime. Well, you know what? I bet that's not related at all to the cartels that are growing weed. I'm going to bet it has nothing to do with it. It has to do with the fact that you guys, you MFers, are taking your time doing this bullshit when you should be going after the violent criminals. So, hello, D-Live, Alizio, LKO. I just wanted to say hello. Somebody jumped in the chat. And we're talking about, of course, the story about why Brandon, we think maybe his video trying to go up today on YouTube,
got deleted from my computer.
Got deleted from the computer by all evidence. So we'll keep track of that. Let's get into that story that we were talking about with Alexis on the Twitter. Because apparently Alexis is from Oklahoma, right? Is that what she was saying? And,
I didn't know that.
or she definitely has connections in Oklahoma. So that's what kind of grabbed her when we were talking about this story. Of course, it's going to be there's a ballot measure in Oklahoma about medical marijuana. And there's some stories about that, of course, because there's the like we say, the prohibitionists are out in force. And here's a quick. This is it's about a 4-minute video, but this is about SQ 788. This is the mainstream sort of PBS debate show talking points. So let's take a quick look at this, and we can make fun of it.
He'll enjoy Oklahoma's wide open spaces. He loves to run and run and run.
Okay, I'm sorry. That wasn't the prohibitionists. Although it sounded like it could have been. The alarm that they're raising over the possibility of Oklahoma legalizing medical marijuana. And I'm sorry, I was also gonna play an Oklahoma from the musical, but I uploaded the clip and YouTube hit it with a copyright already, so I'm not even gonna play that.
Oh no, be careful.
But
hey,
yeah, exactly.
15-second. I'm not sure about the copyright strike or fair use rule. How come people keep saying that they can play 15 seconds worth of something?
Yeah, it's a myth. It's a myth in the long run. Okay. Yeah, it's a myth in the long run. But it all depends on the fair use laws. The Supreme Court basically says if you are using it for commentary, criticism, education, you are protected. Right. And essentially that means, as long as you're not doing it, if you're playing music for an hour on your channel, maybe that's a problem. But, I get Viacom nails me all the time when I try to get, a debate out or something like that. So I stay away from their stuff. And I get it. I understand. But when it comes down to criticism, blunt commentary about cannabis news and marijuana in the mainstream media, F you guys. That's the way I feel. But let's get on to the serious story. Let's get on to the serious. Beyond the dirty, rotten scoundrels in that movie, here are the dirty, rotten scoundrels in Oklahoma trying to stop medical marijuana legalization. This is News 9. Fake News 9.
And welcome back to Covering the Capitol. I'm Alex Cameron, along with Capitol reporter Aaron Brillbeck. And joining us today is Canadian County Sheriff Chris West. We're talking today about State Question 788, which would legalize medical marijuana in the state. And it just so happens this weekend, started yesterday, actually, I'm going to get it wrong, Aaron. You can help me out. The name of this conference.
The Mid-American Medical Cannabis Conference going on at the State Fairgrounds.
Surprise, surprise.
And it really isn't by coincidence that it's being done here in Oklahoma. The reason that it's being done here is because the common belief is that if a red conservative state like Oklahoma can pass medical marijuana, then it can pass any place in the country. So this is sort of the litmus test right now for the rest of the country.
And Sheriff, you are here because you think that there could be some problems if this gets passed into law.
Yeah, I don't necessarily oppose.
I just want to mention something.
Yeah.
Cowboys don't wear their hats indoors.
I still can't see video.
I'm sorry. I'm not sharing. Hang on. Pardon moi. Are you hearing it?
I kind of had a mental picture of him wearing a cowboy hat.
Okay. Are you hearing it?
Oh yeah, I can hear.
Okay, I'm sharing.
Yeah,
now.
that's cool. I like that.
Yes. So let's just be clear. Cowboys do not wear their hats indoors. All right, continue, Sheriff.
Medical marijuana. I'm not a medical doctor. I'm not a chemist, but
No,
I just
you're
think
not.
that 788 is written extremely loose and dangerous. So I'm really in opposition of 788.
It's written in such a way, like you said, it's very vague, with the expectation that the legislature is going to come in probably in July.
They always do.
And write some type of laws that are going to regulate 788.
You know, I think that's what a lot of people think, but I don't think that we can count on that because I hate to change gears, but 780, that was kind of what everybody thought would happen too. But because it was the will of the people, it was a state question, after it passed and the legislature attempted to come in to do some guidelines, there was such an uproar that they left it alone. So rather than approaching this, at least for me, approaching it like, okay, this thing will pass, the legislature will fix it, I think the best thing to do is defeat it.
So with the
Defeat
vague
the will of the
language
people.
that's in there, what are the sorts of problems that you see possibly arising?
Your bow tie?
There's a number of issues that I'm concerned about, and the first one doesn't even have anything to do with criminal activity. It's not
What about those
criminalization.
stripes?
And it's written so loosely that there's no
The cameraman's like,
regulatory
"Fuck you."
or safety controls that are in place for industrial or agricultural reasons or food reasons. And what I'm talking about is danger to the end user, the people that get the medical marijuana cards that could be using medical marijuana that has been contaminated by pesticides, by say mold or mildew or asbestos during an indoor grow. So there's a lot of safety protocols that need to be in place that regulate lots of other portions of industries that's not in this.
Some of the backers of this are saying, though, it's been successful in places like California, like Colorado. We can adopt some of the laws that they've already passed and pass them pretty quickly here in terms of regulating the marijuana.
Yeah, I understand that. And during the session, I believe it was Representative Jordan actually had House Bill 3468, I think is what that House bill was. And that was working with the marijuana industry to try to put some of those safeguards in place, but it didn't survive. So we're just left with State Question 788.
And so what sort of things are you hearing from some of your colleagues in law enforcement? Equally concerned about it?
Yes, there's a number of former police officers from Oklahoma. A couple of them have retired. They've gone to Colorado. So we have an ongoing dialogue. I've been doing this for over 30 years. So we have a network. And
Where'd they go?
there's
El
also
Paso?
There's some studies, impact studies that have come out of Colorado that have talked about the impact. And so the black market is one of them. And I'll just kind of give you a
High-intensity
little
drug
analogy of
trafficking?
what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Let's say that we have an individual that has a medical marijuana card. And there's dispensaries that are set up to go purchase your medical marijuana. Well, even with pseudoephedrine, there's what's called a PMP. It's a prescription monitoring program. There's nothing that's provided for in this, so people could go dispensary to dispensary to dispensary day after day after day, buying it legally and
cares?
selling it illegally.
All right.
Listen, if you are gonna pay the taxes and then go sell it for more, I mean, why not? Okay. I mean, quite so. So the premise, I don't agree. I know this happens. This happens in Colorado with the skateboard guys. They go down the street back and forth and they go get it. But I could never figure that out. Why would you go and pay all those taxes when there's really no need to do that? If all of these cartels are growing so much shit in your city, in your state, how come people are going to the dispensaries and buying stuff and selling it? I don't understand that. Because, you know, if you have illegal, if your intent is illegal, why aren't you just dealing with the illegal grows where you don't have to pay the taxes and you're not going to do it anyway? So
yeah, this guy's talking points are kind of old. Like,
right.
It happens every time someone's trying to legalize marijuana. I highly doubt he even looked at the proposal. He's just using talking points that are based on what they always say. Now, with the pesticides and that, you know, I mean, come on, that's part of the regulations. If it's not in the proposal now, I'm sure they're definitely, that bill that's in the House he's talking about probably has it in there, because these regulations are, you know, really quick to come. I think there's a thing like a ALEC type lobbyist group that has like a copy of the regulations that they're pretty much acceptable state houses. And that's what happened in Michigan in 2016, is they floated this, you know, package of regulations, and it looked kind of similar to what you've seen in other states where, and it's kind of an evolutionary regulation package. It seems like every time you see these regulations, there's something in it that's a little bit different or a little new. And it's not much different. It's not much new. It ain't like they're letting us do anything like extravagant or anything.
Right.
So this guy's just is full of shit. Oklahoma's ready for this. In fact, they just they're put together an initiative to legalize regular marijuana. So they're more than ready for this. I remember the story when it came out. Funny thing is, I remember when they got the signatures and everybody was happy. And then they got screwed over by Pruitt. Everybody went to the state house. That's some of the first videos I ever made on my channel. And people were very passionate about those, about that situation then.
Well, let's watch a video. This is from the Vote Yes on 788. And we're going to counter some of that nonsense we just heard. The talking points that are out of date, and basically is, he's obviously, interesting. All those retired cops moved to Colorado. I wonder why they did that. But here, I digress. Let's look at this video by the Vote Yes on 788, folks. This is a really good one.
Going into this, prognosis was terrible. You're not going to live. The cancer's going to get you, or the treatment will.
I was diagnosed 10 years ago with lupus. It was a misdiagnosis. Shortly after, I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis.
My youngest son, Carver, while we were pregnant with him, we found out that there was something that was wrong with his brain. About 4 to 6 months, he started having seizures due to his brain abnormality.
I constantly experience nightmares, regular flashbacks. I can't sleep very well at all. I have insomnia. The depression is very heavy.
I remember the last time that I was going to the hospital, and we stood in this living room, and we all cried, and we were hugging each other because I thought it was the last time that I would be in my house and I would be hugging my family. And it's very emotional, and it's very stressful.
When it transitioned, I noticed that I was taking a lot more medication, and I maxed out on it, on milligrams every day, and it still wasn't even touching the pain.
Carver's neurologist placed him on medication. Although they do help with his seizures, they do not eliminate his seizures.
The most active prescriptions that I was on at one time was 18. It didn't take long for those medications to wear off. I built up a tolerance to it, and the effects were gone. I had started to research for myself online. I found a few where veterans were talking about it helping with PTSD. I figured I had nothing else to lose. I was at my bottom. I was ready to end it.
Studies have shown that medical cannabis is not only effective, but is the best chance that we have to give Carver a good quality of life that would be seizure-free. It's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking that you have to choose the health of your child, or do we choose to uproot our entire family to go to a state that does see this as a medicine and is voted accordingly?
I recently went to Colorado for 9 days. I had 6 days that were symptom-free. Who I was in Colorado is who I felt like I needed to be here as well. I wasn't in pain. I was definitely in a better mood, because when you're in constant pain, your whole personality changes.
I had a home in Colorado. I was able to go and establish residency and get a medical marijuana card. When they took that first scan, my tumor had actually shrunk. So I knew that there was something to this.
The first time that I tried cannabis,
Don't be saying that.
It was very emotional. It was nothing like what I had expected it to be. The anxiety stopped, the racing thoughts slowed down. I felt like things were starting to balance out. I felt happy for the first time in a long time. I felt like I had hope again.
And when I was there, I didn't feel like I had time against me. I felt like I had a chance to actually extend this, and that I can just buy a little bit of time. And that's all I want. That's all I want, is just time.
People in Oklahoma should know the truth when it comes to medical cannabis. There's reduction in teen usage. There is a reduction in opioid overdoses. There's not been any overdoses caused by cannabis medicine. There's no increase in traffic fatalities.
I want to stick this out and see this through, and I hope that cannabis is legalized here so that I don't have to pick up and leave to another state.
It was really difficult for me to cross the state lines and come back, knowing that I was coming back to a state that saw my medication, my way of life, illegal. I want to live in a state that lets me live in that state. My kids deserve that.
What am I supposed to do when I should be dead? I wanted to do something with that. I wanted to help someone else down the road. This saved my life, I have no doubt. This plant is not what we thought it was. It's not what we think it is.
At the end of the day, this vote is about patients in your community. This is about ending the criminalization of good people who just want to have a good sense of quality of life again.
I would encourage every person to get out and support us and vote for this on June 26. Really look at it, educate yourself, because the life you save could not be only yours, but could be someone you love.
That is the vote, the Yes on 788, www.yeson78.com. Excellent video.
That was great.
Really moving. That's going to pass. I think that's going to pass. They're going to try to stop it, but that's going to pass. And then I read part of the bill. It does seem pretty, open-ended, but it says you got to make rules. You got to make rules in local jurisdiction, blah, blah, blah. If I read that correctly, but it seemed like it wasn't just a pass, just an open door. They want regulation. And why shouldn't they? I mean, don't be telling them they're curing cancer, though. They'll shut your ass down. You start telling them it shrinks tumors. Yeah, that was a powerful video. Holy cannabis oil. You're right. It's criminal. Criminal behavior denying these people a healthy, normal life is inhumane. I want to live in a state that lets me live in a state. That's pretty powerful.
The polling is still in the upper 60s or mid 60s, depending on who you believe. Like I said, when I did those clips back in 2016, the polling was in the upper 60s, lower 70s then. So the polling's all over the place, but it's passing, no doubt about it. So, and it's always funny when law enforcement comes out to make comments about what's going on, or the DEA directly getting involved with these campaigns against the people's will. It just shows you how they're there to really serve and protect, don't it? Right. Like here they are, like literally trying to thwart the will of the people.
Like in Utah,
campaigning against them. And now they got these rules against how you're not supposed to do that ethically if it's a bipartisan thing, or if it's a partisan bill. And I got really mad about that in a video I made about the same kind of subject, where it's like the Democrats never adopted legalizing marijuana as a platform position or part of their identity, and so therefore if you can't claim that if some politicians out there saying something about it or whatever. So it's weird that we got to deal with this. And it's the same thing in Michigan with regular legalizing marijuana. We have police officers chiming in on the media talking about it, and it's the same old dead talking points. And I don't understand why they keep thinking they can float these talking points.
Because
popularity just started going straight down.
The gateway drug, that's blown out of the water. The
youth in general,
youth use. Although there was a poll just came out today. I don't know if you caught it over there on
brain damage,
marijuana.
Yep.
Oh yeah, yep. Brain damage is down. It actually helps. That was one of the first things they used it for, was for memory 2,500 years ago, or however long the Chinese were using it. But Tom Engel, Kyle Yeager, just reporting today, there's a new poll out, youth support for legalization at an all-time high, despite, use going down, or at least new use going down in states for teens. But major support for for legalization across the country with millennials.
Well, the youth today, they don't get beat down with the reefer madness and the propaganda and don't have a choice but to take it like we did when we were kids. Nowadays, when you see how kids are getting educated about drugs, they have a lot of things at their disposal to find information out, and valid information, true information, not just, what some DARE officers trying to tell them at some school thing. And even DARE has adjusted their messaging because of the internet, and because kids are talking about this kind of stuff while they're sitting there playing Minecraft and shit. Like it's
on Twitch,
totally different world. The propaganda doesn't work on kids no more. They know this, so
they're
trying
not
a new approach. They're trying to scare the parents.
The kids aren't watching the bow tie guy shows.
No,
they're not. Their demographic is 65 and older, which is why they're using the same talking points, because those are the ones that those people are comfortable with. Those are the people they think are voting.
Right.
And
those people are voting too.
Well, they're voting. They're voting. But the demographic, that's not where this youth support for marijuana legalization is not coming from these guys watching, Capitol Report and Fox News. That's not
today's youth will look at all the information available to them, and then they'll be like, "Why is this shit even illegal in the first place?" That's their angle. It's not even critical thinking. It's just looking at everything that you can kind of learn in 20 minutes about marijuana and marijuana law and policy and how it got illegal in the first place. That's the one that they don't want people talking about. How did this thing become illegal in the first place?
Right. The
FBI learned to somebody that's 12 to 15 to 20 years old. They look at you like, "Are you serious? That's what kind of country I live in?"
I learned this week that the FDA had approved. It was already approved by the FDA right after FDA was created, and it actually got disapproved.
Right.
So it's already been approved by the FDA.
And before the FDA, there was the FDA was really formed by the medical, cabal of gangsters back then to stamp out the patent medicine industry. And the thing is before they were the FDA, there was still another body that was like them that was okaying the patent medicines that they thought were okay. And it's always been a big scam. And cannabis was the number 1, 2, and 3 most prescribed medicine in the pharmacopoeia from 1870 to 1910.
Right.
And they can't run away from stuff like that. It's like, that's the history we know and we can tell people. And then they're like, well, why'd they make it illegal? And then you tell them about the corporate interests and the big pharma birth and all that stuff. And it's just, they're kind of mad. It's easy to get somebody that's like a teenager these days that don't even smoke weed. And you tell them some of these things that we talk about, and they're just like, what?
Yep.
And it's almost like they might want to start thinking about smoking weed more, just knowing how bad they got lied to about it.
Oh, well, that's what happened with the drug war. That's what happened with the original DARE program. That's why they're changing their messaging. That's why the Just Say No campaign actually was detrimental. It made kids go do it more. So that we know that doesn't work. Okay, well, let's move on. Let's move on. As Cello would say, let's move along to the next story to not have a 5-hour show. Although we're just getting ramped up here, Vegan Metro. So we're on a roll. Brandon's on a roll. I want to get into some. There's a whole bunch of stories coming out of Florida because of this ban. That was the unconstitutional. The court said it. They're immediately coming back with an appeal. So let's take a look at a couple of quick clips. And then there's also some good stuff happening with regards to access for folks in Florida. So we know straight out of NPR, he's in Florida. We got a couple of folks in the house in Florida. So let's take a look at a couple of.
I can't tell who's here because I don't have it opened.
Oh, you don't have your thing open. Who was that?
I'm gonna open it and mute it.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Yeah. Okay. So let's watch some. Let's check out some Florida stories.
The ban on smoking medical marijuana for patients here in Florida is up in smoke. Brightside reporter Josh Sidorowicz is here, and Josh, this is not a final ruling. There's still a lot of back and forth.
This is not over yet, Courtney. Next stop, Florida's First District Court of Appeals. It did not take more than an hour before the state filed its notice to appeal this case after a judge ruled on Friday that the ban state lawmakers placed on smoking medical marijuana is unconstitutional. And to that decision to appeal, bigwig attorney John Morgan tweeted to Governor Rick Scott that this type of meanness will cost you the U.S. Senate seat went on to say, grow some brass ones. Morgan, of course, bankrolled the push to legalize medical pot in our state, which, as you know, was overwhelmingly approved by 71% of voters in 2016. The only problem was that the only mention of smoking the drug in the constitutional amendment's language was that lawmakers and local governments had the power to restrict smoking in public places. Attorneys for patients argued that was enough to assume it meant the drug could be smoked in private. But lawmakers went ahead, banned it altogether, citing concerns over public health. Judge Karen Gievers, for her part, in a ruling on Friday, said there was a bona fide, actual, present, practical need for this declaration and that patients, quote, have the right to use the form of medical marijuana recommended by their physicians, including a smokable form of the drug. That said, the state's appeal means that for now, this ruling is essentially on hold until a final ruling can be made by the appellate court.
Well, new at noon, we have been telling you about the state's major change in the use of medical marijuana. A Tallahassee judge ruled Friday that patients are allowed to smoke the drug in private places. But Florida's Department of Health has appealed the ruling, which will impose an automatic stay. Orlando attorney John Morgan has been pushing for this change and spoke about it today during a press conference, calling
Morgan's
on Governor
all
Rick
over the
Scott
place.
to remove
Big,
that appeal.
big attorney.
Yeah, we'll fight this appeal if we have to. But we really shouldn't have to. Really what should happen is that Governor Scott should say, you know what? Enough is enough. I am going to allow the people's will to be done.
Morgan has been advocating for medicinal use on behalf of two of his clients with terminal illnesses who say they both benefit from smokable marijuana. The next step for the appeal is to the state's first district court of appeal in Tallahassee.
So we've got, we're going to the appeals court on this one, and we're going to the appeals court with Alexis's case.
That's awesome.
In the Second Circuit. So here we go. Cannabis on the march in the courts. And that was
I don't know about the I'm more excited about the Supreme Court, because you know how this appeals court thing is going to go with Alexis's case and Washington's case. It's going to be another dodge by the judge somehow. And this time all he has to do is make it sound like the last judge made a good ruling, right? That's all the appeals court has to decide on.
Right.
Is whether everything went legitimate in the first court.
And then they would throw it back.
He's not going to be really making, like, if he says, okay, you guys win, then what? They got to go to get redone in a regular court, right?
Well, they would have to, if the appeals court finds with the lower court, then the ban is lifted. Now, then the state can take it up to the state Supreme Court. If the appeals court finds with the lower court, they can move it up the level there. If they kick it back down, if they say no, they can probably say no, gone. They can't smoke it, or they'll say no. You guys have to look at it again. Something like that.
We're talking about Florida.
So I'm not a lawyer. I could play one on TV. But
Florida's definitely. I think they should both go to the top court.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yes, the other one. They're both going. Well, Alexis is going.
Talking about Alexis's case, but now that you mention it, they're pretty much both in the same situation.
Yeah.
Like this appeals process is going to just be a walkthrough. Hopefully, they don't try to hold it up. I know the Florida one has to make a decision soon, because we're talking about people's medicine and whatnot.
Right.
I mean, so are we with Alexis's case. I just don't understand how, if they could hold it up, that's the only thing they're going to try to do. And then I think these are going to the Supreme Court, both of them.
Well, it's not helping them anymore with their case when we have stories and testimony like this one. I'm going to do a couple videos, move on from the controversy over in the court system. Let's move on to how the medical marijuana system is working for people, or at least the benefits people are getting with some stuff. This is from My Florida Green, and then we're going to look at a video, a news report about holistic pediatrics and family care. So let's take a look at some cannabis cures happening down in Florida. My Florida Green, Orlando.
Why is it I took an oath and I became a doctor because I wanted to help people and I wanted to make them feel better. This is the only thing that I've done in 26 years that I change and improve the quality of life of my patients. Big time. Big time. I see this all the time. I get them off of narcotics. I get them off of benzodiazepines. I get them off of the neuroleptics. I get them off of the anti-seizure medicines. I get them off of the muscle relaxants. And I also get them off of the alcohol. That's easy. And I actually have alcoholic patients come in to get off of alcohol, and it works.
It's ironic that one pill leads to another pill. It leads to another pill and another pill after that. It doesn't get any better, it gets worse. Until you make the decision and say, enough is enough, I'm done. No, Dr. Doolittle, you're not going to prescribe me another opiate. Opiates, 2016, 66,000 opioid overdose deaths occurred. That's 5,000 a month. That's almost 2 World Trade Center attacks a month. Where is the outrage?
Educated, like with the Daily Dope Show and DC 420 LA. Subscribe, get notifications. Thanks, Tim Buck and Holy Cannabis Oil. Can you not hear?
There.
Oh, sorry. I was narrating the video for the. It's hard for me to. It's hard for you to hear me when the video is playing because the video takes over the mic for your feed. But I was just narrating the end of that My Florida Green, medical marijuana made easy.
That was good.
Good. That was a conference or something going on there at in Florida this week. And then, let me just while I'm finding the next video here. So yeah, that was good information. I like that. Alcohol. They're getting off alcohol. Don't tell the beer companies that, although they're getting on board that too. Yes, it's nice to have a powerful attorney. I don't remember who said that. It's nice to have a powerful attorney in Florida helping in this regard. And he is no wallflower, that John Morgan. Also, the Libertarian Party is on its... I want to do the Tampa Clinic first. That's what I want to do. Let's watch this Tampa Clinic video. Holistic pediatrics and family care in this news report.
On your side report, Tampa's first family medical cannabis clinic is now open for patients across Tampa Bay. This morning, I explore who can receive this type of treatment, and I also take a look back at the little girl who helped bring medical marijuana to a level playing field as a treatment protocol. I have to warn you, the images you're about to see are disturbing, but an important reminder of what many believe is a breakthrough treatment option now more readily available in Tampa Bay.
I just want to say something about these images can be disturbing. You can't use that. You can't use that across the board. Okay.
No.
Bombing civilians and dead babies is much more disturbing. This is tragic, this disease. And what's great is there is a cure, but I just hate the overuse of that phrase. So I digress, but here we go.
I would say it's profound.
Yeah. Profound. But I just, it's like, when you try to give somebody an honest look at something, and then you see the results. See, I'd like to see the results of no war. Maybe that would be nice.
This isn't like before the bomb dropped on Uncle Bob's house, and then boom, you see his body all over the sidewalk. This is somebody having a seizure, and then they get better, and then they don't have a seizure. This is a good thing. So I don't even get that reference.
I don't either. It drives me crazy. But it probably means nothing in this context, but it's a good story. Let's continue.
Yeah.
Sorry. I'm high.
Are disturbing, but an important reminder of what many believe is a breakthrough treatment option now more readily available in Tampa Bay.
The video is hard to watch, but is credited for revolutionizing the way the world views the cannabis plant. Remember little Charlotte Figge? Traditional treatments for her uncontrollable seizures almost killed the child until her mother turned to medical marijuana as a last resort.
Her seizures were instantly abated. So her 300 weekly seizures were down to 0 her first week after that first dose.
In 2014, the family came all the way to Florida to help push for the legalization of Charlotte's Web, a non-euphoric strain of marijuana. Now, years later, it's available at the very first family medical cannabis clinic in Tampa.
And in particular, the CBD that's found in the low THC medical cannabis that is now approved for people with seizures and people with chronic muscle spasms and people with cancer, it's helping people across the country. So now in Florida, we finally have the opportunity to help people out.
Pediatrician Dr. David Berger heads up the clinic and says many parents are seeking out safer alternatives to traditional drugs and turning to medical marijuana.
It's an incredibly safe profile. You cannot get high from taking a product that just has the CBD in it. And that's really an important thing, because a lot of the patients that I've talked to so far, especially those who have a chronic muscle spasm, who are on muscle relaxants or on pain medications, there are people who are really concerned about getting addicted to those types of medications.
Dr. Berger orders tinctures and capsules for his young patients because it's easier and safer to control dosages. But he also treats adults at the clinic, and other forms are available. In Florida, though, you cannot smoke marijuana even for medical purposes.
I love how she just wanted to make sure you knew that even though that pesky court...
Look at that posture she has right there. She's like, come on, you know
you can't smoke that flower that's in your kitchen right now.
It's literally like my mom telling me not to do something. Like,
you realize the federal court just said it's unconstitutional for you to say that. Although you're not a government person, so I guess you can say whatever you want. Sinclair Broadcasting, but NBC 8 in Florida. But yeah, that's funny. Just to be clear, even though you've heard this in the news recently on DC 420 LA and the Daily Dope, that we have said that you can smoke it. It's actually, you're right. We're not so fast. So let's just go ahead and keep going. There's a lot in Florida. Let's take a look. We got some libertarian chats going on. What did Phil Britton say? Give a libertarian a shovel and tell them to build your own damn roads, fire, police departments, and schools. Then they shut up. But let's take a look. The Libertarian Party apparently is on board in Florida. So let's see what they've got with Cannabis 2018.
Giving me new medication.
Sorry. That was a good video.
Uh-oh.
Hang on. Here we go.
Political party frustrated with a ban on medical marijuana dispensaries in Collier County is fighting back tonight. The Libertarian Party of Collier County has started an online petition they hope will pressure county leaders to allow those dispensaries, which they say should be allowed after Florida voters said yes to legalizing medical marijuana. Four in Your Corner's Carl Fortier has been talking to them and taking their concerns right to the Collier County Commission to get a response.
We are beyond frustrated. We are incensed. We are livid over this issue.
The issue is whether Collier County should allow medical marijuana dispensaries within the county's borders. Rob Tolp, chairman of Collier's Libertarian Party, says medical marijuana helps people with issues like PTSD.
My son-in-law being one who is 100% disabled PTSD, and the need for medical cannabis, I know from many of my friends, helps them greatly.
Last week, county commissioners voted to ban dispensaries for now.
It was almost a consensus that we would look at this again in 6 months to see if the state has given us any additional information or guidance in this.
So the Collier Libertarian Party launched this online petition just a few days ago to pressure them to take action sooner.
To force them into bringing this issue up before 6 months and ending the ban permanently.
Taylor says the county isn't completely denying access to medical marijuana, saying it can still be delivered.
So it's not as if we're saying it can't be sold in our county. We're not saying that. What we're saying is we don't just want dispensaries in our county.
Alex Popoff says medical marijuana helps him with shooting pain from his sciatic nerve and wants commissioners to listen to Florida voters who voted to allow the controversial drug.
71% of people made their voices heard, and we're going to continue to make them heard.
In Collier County, Carl Fortier, Fox 4 in your corner.
Let's be clear. You don't want people selling marijuana in your county because you don't want dispensaries. So you don't want them selling it, but people can deliver it like pizza.
That's weird. It's like they know people are. I don't understand why they don't want to enjoy some of the benefits of marijuana revenue. Because I don't. And by the way, as usual, I have to bring up the Sinclair point. You can't even smoke the shit. So what's the big deal? Like, I mean, come on, guys. It's medicine.
That's right. Well, you don't want those ease vehicles being hijacked by a bunch of.
I think these people they still have like they got their arm behind their back, like either Big Pharma or somebody. It's Florida, so it's probably Big Pharma. Big Pharma stands to lose a lot of money if smokable marijuana is like everywhere on every street corner in Florida.
That's why they're shutting us down, my friend. That's why.
Big studies that we've been seeing for the last 2 or 3 years is, guess who the biggest uptick in demographic is for medical marijuana? Retired people and older people. Right. And guess what Florida is? That's like the capital of retired people and old people.
So here's an interesting anecdote. As you know, we are as part of one of our relief projects, we are certified. Well, not certified. We are trained as facilitators of the virtual dementia tour, which we are starting this month. Over at Lisa's Care in Burbank. Stay tuned for more information about that at the end of month, June being Alzheimer's and Brain Awareness Month. We don't necessarily, I mean, yes, we need more research, but they've been researching this bugger for 110 years. Since they've known about Alzheimer's, and the money really needs to go and it needs to go into care more so necessarily than big pharma research. Cannabis works. That's part of what we use and have used to help Mom along her journey. And an interesting anecdote along this is that in getting ready to do this over at Lisa's Care, the virtual dementia tour, cannabis was never brought up. We weren't even talking about that. We're doing this totally separately, although it is going to be part of the coaching area where we're into it. The tour is also part of that. But they said, hey, do you know someone that has been, has cred in the meritocracy that can come and talk to seniors about cannabis here at Lisa's Care at the hospital where we are. So it's true. People are asking about it. Seniors are asking about it. They're coming in there for Alzheimer's support and they're asking about, how do I get cannabis? How do I get CBD? And they're like, Chella, can you find somebody to come in here and tell people about it? And we're in California. Our collective works with every week a doctor, a real doctor, not a cannabis doctor like Trump's doctor, which I'm sure that's his gig. Because now they're doing that too, Brand. You see in the news how they're now discrediting all these doctors down in Florida. They're saying how all these doctors are jumping on, all these weirdo doctors are jumping on the medical marijuana bandwagon. And they're all weird and flighty, they're saying, because there's, your AMA doctors, big pharma doctors that are getting the payoff. Right. They're not going to come out and say it. It's like there was a question earlier in Jimmy's chat. Why didn't the doctor just tell you to go get high and you're in California? Why didn't your doctor just tell you to go spark up a joint? It's in California. That's because they don't get money from that. And they can lose their license if somebody comes back and says, oh my God, I got the munchies and got fat. I got to sue my doctor.
And that's why the doctors that are activist doctors that do the marijuana recommendations in legal medical marijuana states, and it's like that in Michigan as well. We have Dr. Proctor. He's still in a court case because they've been attacking him for 10 years almost. And yeah, the doctors that write recommendations are always getting thrown under the bus by either other doctors or big pharma operatives and lobbyists, and you name it, man.
I gotta say,
attacked on all fronts.
I gotta say, Brand, the man bun doesn't help that one guy down in Florida. But no. Beyond that, Chella wouldn't even let me play that video last week. She says I can't get past the man bun. I'm sorry. So point of interest. But let's move on. Is cannabis going to be part of 2018? It is. And they're picking up on in Florida. This is our last video in Florida. Then we'll move up to a couple up there in your neck of the woods there, Brando, if you want to hang on for a minute or two.
There's near consensus among Florida's top Democratic gubernatorial candidates when it comes to pot. Tallahassee Mayor Andrew Gillum, Winter Park entrepreneur Chris King, and former Miami Beach Mayor Philip Levine all support legalization of recreational marijuana, and the fourth, former Congresswoman Gwen Graham, backs decriminalizing of pot for personal use. 2 years ago, Florida voters overwhelmingly approved a constitutional amendment that broadly legalized medical marijuana. All four Democratic gubernatorial hopefuls also said they support allowing patients to smoke medical marijuana if their doctors order it. Florida's Department of Health recently appealed a Tallahassee judge's ruling that found a state law prohibiting the smoking of medical marijuana is invalid because it conflicts with the Florida Constitution and prohibits a use of medical marijuana that is permitted by the amendment, smoking in private. Matt Uris for CBSMiami.com.
In private. I mean, we're not even talking about in public. I mean, we're talking here in California. We're trying to get our joints on in a social situation with a bunch of people. They're saying you can't even smoke it in your goddamn house.
We don't. I guess they're gonna have to, make sure somehow. Like, it's ridiculous.
It's completely irridiculous. But there you go. All the gubernatorial candidates down there in FLA, at least on the. Were they all those all Democrats? I couldn't tell. The Republicans, they had, I don't know if I didn't play the Utah video, but it was basically the Republican Republican Senate candidates with old Mittens. Mittens came out and said, actually, let's play that. Let's go ahead and play that. Are you in a hurry?
No.
Okay, cool.
No, I did do that video on one of my videos, but yeah, go ahead. That's
I do have to leave by 8:30 to go pick up Chella. We're not going to go that long, but
okay, cool.
We'll get through all the videos. We're almost we're moving on. But I just want to play this. This is the Utah jumping over. It might as well be the South, jumping over to to the debate between Mitt Romney and the other Republicrats over there. Hold on.
Consistent advocate for our Second Amendment rights as well as our constitutional rights generally.
Let's go to the next question. It's a social media question. We thank our audience for sending in tweets and other communications. This one comes from Skylar Beltran, and it will go to Representative Kennedy. Will you support the Utah Medical Marijuana Initiative as a private voter? Should federal marijuana laws be enforced?
I've been using chemistry and medicines with people through
LSD?
my entire professional career. And I am so amazed at our pharmaceutical company's capacity to create life-saving medicines. And I am in favor of initiatives. I think initiatives are a direct expression of the will of the people. So I am grateful that the people of Utah are motivated enough to generate this initiative. I will not be voting for this initiative because I need more data. I'm a doctor. Routinely.
I'm a doctor.
I have dealt with medicines with people, and I've found even with new medicines that were FDA approved and had been through years of study, that as those medicines were released on the market, we found after 2 or 3 years of literally thousands of people using those medicines that they had problems that we never knew about.
Really?
And often it seems that the medicinal use of marijuana is merely a front for the recreational use of marijuana. And I do not support that. I want more studies, though. And one of the things that I want to promote in the federal government as your U.S. Senator is we need to move marijuana off of Schedule 1 into Schedule 2 where we can do the studies that we need so we know what this substance is and how to use it safely with our population.
Okay, so before we go on to the next Yahoo, just to break down a little bit of what he's talking about, my first question is: did you support the right to try stuff and federally? Because that basically would said you could screw you, FDA. We don't need your pesky phase 2 approvals anyway. So I'm wondering if you supported that since you're so concerned about getting those dangerous drugs in the hands of people that actually do kill people, and you're never going to find that problem with cannabis, number one. Number two, I guess. And the other point with this guy is I think he's on Westworld. Probably like he was like a first generation robot.
Right.
Because he didn't get the upgrade. He did not get the upgrade.
Nope.
And he's got the talking points down. He hasn't broken eye contact with camera. And
did he blink?
I don't think he blinked. So, you're talking about Utah this week.
Yeah.
Brandon, go ahead. Before we get into the next Utahian Senate candidate, go ahead.
Well, he said it best. He trusts big pharma. He's a doctor, so he's been working hand in hand with them, selling their deadly pills. And he even busted them out. He even let you know how bad it is when big pharma is corrupting the prescription drug industry with pills that pass the FDA process, no problem. But 2-3 years down the line, thousands of people are having complications because of the pills that they're getting prescribed. Why is that? That's because the process to get an FDA approval isn't that big of a deal for people that are greasing the skids with thousands of dollars to the corrupt FDA. And the FDA's got that, revolving door with the FDA director is always somebody that used to work for the pharma companies. And the guy now is no different. He worked for 8 pharmaceutical corporations. So that's basically, this guy is basically inside that little quick speech that he gave was an inside look at why people are against marijuana being legalized as medicine, straight up, right? Because it threatens them and everything that they got this little cycle of money that goes between the FDA, them, big pharma, them being the doctors. And it's just it's a cycle that he don't want to see. It's like the wheel churning, and medical marijuana is this big brick in the road that they got to run over.
Right, because they don't want to. They don't want to actually. They don't want to
Schedule 2 person too.
Yeah, he's a Schedule 2 person. That's the drug. That's a drug company code for. We need more research. That was research was coming out of every orifice of this guy. And it
equates to taking over.
Yet the libertarians and the Republicans and all 40 states. And the feds now right to try, right? Because they want to nullify the FDA. And all of a sudden he's like, oh no, the FDA, well, we want to make sure, blah, 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 blah. Right. And they're like, well, obviously they want to help people. This is good. We want to get past this. We want to get life-saving medicine. Kissing that kid. It was so disgusting. No, you know why this Koch brothers push is happening? This is not getting around the FDA because there's a process. That process actually doesn't change. That process doesn't change with this law. The process, you still have to ask the FDA, you still have to ask the drug company, and the drug company could say, no, we're not going to do that. We're not going to give you the stuff for free. We're not going to give it in case it kills somebody. We're not going to do that in case of liability. Oh, but wait a minute. I tell you what, you pass a bill, you pass a law that says we're not going to be liable if somebody dies from using one of those drugs. And it's not going to be used for further decision making as to whether they're going to get approval. So all of this bullshit of them talking about, some of them get through to the phase 2 process and they're really dangerous. They just taken away all the criminal liability and all the liability to all these drug companies in case, so they can get this crap into people's hands and move the money somehow, because somebody's going to pay for it. It's going to be subsidies. It may not be insurance, but somebody's going to pay for it. Insurance companies are going to go, fuck you. This is going to kill people. I'm not giving you money for this. So it's going to be a GoFundMe,
What do you see? What do you see on TV more? Do you see like commercials for pills, or do you see commercials for the lawsuit class action tort cases against the pills?
Exactly.
It's getting to be like break even these days. Please. I don't really watch TV. So I don't know. It was nonstop. Like you either had a pharma case or a tort case.
Oh no, it's that's right. That's really true. That is really true. It has been complete. Well, that's ever since that was before we made it legal. Then basically, it's legal in every other country except New Zealand to market pharmaceuticals directly to the consumer. So there's only 2 states in the world that do that, and we're one of them. So there you go. And they're every other commercial. They'd have to play the lawsuit commercials if there were no drug commercials, because there are. All right, let's look at the next Yahoo. I don't know. I don't think this might be Mittens. Let's see.
Yeah.
Governor Romney.
I agree with Dr. Kennedy in that regard.
Of course you do.
And let me just elaborate for a moment, and that is that this ballot initiative is really not medicinal marijuana. I support medicinal marijuana, where a person with a condition receives a prescription from a real doctor, and it's filled by a real pharmacy. That, in my opinion, is something we ought to have. We ought to move there as quickly as we possibly can to get the care that people who really need pain alleviation medication, the help that they need as quickly as possible. But at the same time, I recognize as I look at this ballot initiative, that's not what it is. What this ballot initiative is, it's going to open the door to corner stores selling marijuana-laced brownies and gummy bears. You're going to have marijuana that's going to be
not already
in our
happening.
schools across our state.
Hello.
That's not the right way to go. The right way to go is to say, let's legalize medicinal marijuana with prescriptions and prescribed through or filled entirely and exclusively through a pharmacy like Walgreens and CVS and so forth.
Okay, I have to stop there. I'm going to get my bud at Walgreens?
No, thanks. No, he don't want you to get bud. That's
my point exactly.
And Mitt Romney, his worldview is it's a Schedule 2 situation where they just take the plant just like they do to any other plant, and they just make like analog doses of pills out of certain compounds in the plant.
Yeah, somebody
probably don't even need a plant. They'll probably just make it all in the lab.
Somebody made a comment on one of the videos that I put up that said the FDA has already approved marijuana and Marinol. I'm like, no, that was literally they approved a synthetic version of it. Was, that was the way it was approved. So that's hilarious. Yes, I'm going to go to Walgreens. It needs to be, we need to change it. But that's interesting. He needs to turn Walgreens and CVS into bud tenders, which I think is admirable. I think is admirable of Mittens. Because
they sell cigarettes and liquor in those places.
That's right. They do. As a matter of, there you go. Exactly. So thank you, Mittens, for your input. Who's next?
That's the right way to go.
Cavalcade.
This particular ballot initiative is not the right way to go, and I hope the people of Utah take a careful look at it and recognize how dramatically this could change our state if we were to support this particular initiative.
Again, I don't think
you read it.
largely
agree on this about. Let's go to the next question.
I assume you agree?
I'll just finish off by saying as a state legislator that we've worked on this issue. Actually, we've opened the door already for young ones to receive.
And the DEA is trying to close it as quickly as they possibly can.
Well, all they're trying to do is let people that are going to die within 6 months have it. And epileptic seizure patients can have CBD only. That's what they're opening the door to in Utah.
Right. The nose under the tent, CBD only.
Right. I mean, that shouldn't even be considered medical marijuana. I don't, I got a whole nother conversation.
Oh no,
about that,
no, whatever. I'm with you. I'm with you on that. This whole medical marijuana, and then they show the bud, right? And they show the plants, and they show the guy smoking it, and they show all the fucking reefer madness, man. They show all the. You're gonna have this flower. This flower is gonna be everywhere, and you've only legalized the oil. The oil that you can only get by breaking state law or federal law by going over state lines. It's crazy. It's the narrative and the imaging around this is nuts. And we're not talking about, you're talking about CBD only.
Hemp.
Hemp and hemp CBD. Crazy. Okay. I'm done with these guys in Utah.
Yes.
I'm done with those guys in Utah. And but this is
good luck with all that though, Utah.
Yeah, good luck with that, Utah. That's coming. They're voting this year too, right? On medical marijuana. It's on the ballot.
Unless the lawsuit somehow goes through, but I don't see it really happening there. The lawsuit takes some of the worst arguments against legalizing any kind of marijuana, let alone medical, and puts it in the lawsuit as, contention points. That's what they're suing. And they're saying it's unconstitutional to legalize medical marijuana.
Hoy.
That's how they're trying to stop this from going on the ballot now. The lawsuit from the people that are opposing it. If you read it, it's just absurd.
They're using the constitutional argument in reverse.
They're saying that it's against the state and federal constitutions to allow people to use marijuana medicinally.
That's one of the many
ridiculous arguments that they're trying to make in this court case that I don't see going anywhere.
All right, let's take a look at this. Let's move into, I think this is our first Michigan story. Let's take a look. Oh yeah, I put this one up today.
Experts say getting a medical marijuana license in Michigan is much harder than it should be, hurting businesses and those who use the drug. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Alexandra Illich. If you want to open up a medical marijuana business in Michigan, you have to have some deep pockets, starting with roughly $6,000. And with new regulations in place, both business owners and their attorneys say the state application fee is just too much. Our Dana White tells us why many in the businesses are calling for changes.
We're hoping it will be a lot more like liquor licensing than it has turned out to be.
Denise Policella, the founder of Cannabis Attorneys of Michigan, has spent the last 10 years working to help regulate the medical marijuana industry. She says as our state continues to make changes to regulation, it's putting Michigan behind when it comes to medical marijuana.
The way we had set out to regulate it is similar, and the process was similar. We were hoping that the licensing would be similar. It has not turned out that way.
She says getting a license in the state is a long and hard process, which falls under the Michigan Marijuana Licensing Facilities
impossible.
Act. Those who apply have to meet certain criteria and provide information including account balances for the past 3 years and a list of large purchases and individual assets. Tom Mays owns Greenwave Dispensary in Lansing. He says because of the application process, many vendors simply don't do it.
With all the different regulations and going through licensing, some people, some businesses were closed because they didn't meet some of the requirements or the pre-qualifications, or they just didn't apply.
Policella says she hopes the
asset
state makes
requirements
this application easier in the future to prevent people from buying marijuana from places that may not be safe.
Unregulated, untested marijuana is not necessarily always a safe thing.
While this may seem like a rigorous process for some, Policella says it's necessary to ensure safety. Here for you in Lansing, Dana White, 6 News.
So that process apparently is crazy enough and prohibitive enough that they've decided to extend the deadline to September. Is that right, Brandon?
Yeah, they came out with the extension after, like that lady said, a lot of people's lawyers that were in the licensing process, quite frankly, the licensing process turned into kind of a fishing expedition for a few people that were trying to get licenses that didn't even have businesses on the ground. So the people that are on the ground now, and they're running under the temporary emergency rules that were made to keep them open.
We've got some of those.
Yeah. And what they're doing is those people, they thought they were going to have this 15th of June deadline, and they're still waiting. And basically it's the state, because the state, at one point, the state knew that it was so hard to fill out these 60-page applications that are very intrusive and ask you all kinds of information that no other license that you could possibly imagine. You could go get a contract with the federal government doing covert operations, and the license wouldn't be that, ask you this many questions. It's almost insane what they want to know.
Yeah,
and besides that, not only just you, but they want to know about the people that you work with. They want to know about your wife. None of this is ever something that you would have to disclose to get any license.
Well, they need a list, Brandon. They need a
really hard. So what they did was they was like, okay, we're going to have a 2-phase process. Just fill out whatever you can right now and get the license in, and we'll get you in the emergency rules. So we won't shut you down. And they can't shut you down anyway, but they can say that you're operating illegally, and they have pretty good connection to the police. So if they say, oh, you're operating illegally, but we're not going to tell you to shut down, and then all of a sudden the state police show up at your dispensary the next day, that wouldn't be any surprise to anybody in Michigan.
Well, here's the deal. Here's the thing. What they've got now is they have a list of people that are connected to the business.
Oh yeah.
The federally illegal business.
Yep.
They've got a list of people. They've got a list of your assets that you can forfeit.
Yep.
When the feds come in, they said, oh, we know you've got this asset here. You got to report it here to get your license.
And there's asset requirements.
Yep.
For these
you've got to
licenses.
have it. So yeah, and it's ridiculous. This ain't tomatoes. This ain't, if you want it, you could, if you wanted to sell tomatoes at a freaking farmer's market, it certainly is not the hoops you have to jump through.
If you want to sell shots of liquor all night to thousands of people that are between 21 and 30, you would not have to go jumping through any of these hoops.
There's that. There's that.
You could get that license without jumping through none of these hoops. And by the way, the licenses are so, I mean, it's ridiculous, the cost for the application fee I believe was $5,000 for the state application, which, like I said, is a crazy application. Nobody's ever, I don't even know if anyone's actually filled one out from front to back yet, but they're looking at what you can fill out, and then they're going to advance you to round 2. And I guess they're looking at 11 to 19 good possibilities. That's the rumor. So on June 11th, they're going to have a meeting at the Medical Marijuana Licensing Board. And if you remember, if you ever watch any of my videos about this, 2 people on the board are a little bit iffy. Like, one of them is a former lobbyist that was involved in some other marijuana legalization group that's a Republican group. And then the other one is a former state police sergeant who was heavily a prohibitionist and has said some pretty negative things about medical marijuana in his career that he's went public making statements about throughout the years. So
is he from Oklahoma by any chance?
Is a shady proposition, but
yes,
they're going to make the decision on the 11th to see who stays open or who gets a license right now. But the people that are still waiting do get to stay open until September 15th. But another possible situation that no one's talking about, and I keep talking about it and I haven't stopped talking about it, is that there's going to be this situation where the state says, okay, this dispensary right here has a license, and maybe even this grow op over here just got their license on June 11th, but the dispensary doesn't have any regulated marijuana because the grow op just started growing weed today. I don't know how that's really going to be, but even if they do have marijuana around, the grower or the store already has product, none of that has been tested at the state approved testing facilities until one of them guys get a license. So it's all,
you're gonna have fun. You're
it's
gonna
all
have
really
fun.
touch and go right now in this situation in Michigan, to be honest. I'm just glad they did the extension. It was kind of a no-brainer. It's their fault. Like, how are you going to make someone sit there and wait for you and tell them that they can't conduct business while they wait for you? And it's on you. It's the ball's in your court,
Right.
So it's kind of weird.
Well, we'll keep an eye on it because we've got, it's, we've sort of, we're in a little bit of advance of what you guys are going through.
Right.
So it's interesting
With
to
recreational.
see. Yeah. Oh,
Same
yeah.
thing,
I mean,
though.
we've already, and you're voting on that this year too. So that's going to be thrown into the big stew, the mayhem, the Michigan marijuana mayhem over the next year as well. And they're going to go, well, we're going to regulate, we got to regulate medical and CBD. Now we got to do the recreational too. We might as well put it all together, so it's all going to be more delays.
That's why Maryland was, the legislators stopped talking about legalizing marijuana actually in 2017. But in 2018, they did the same thing. They were like, you know what? We still don't have our shit together with medical, so we're not going to try it.
Well, I'm thinking it's looking more and more like Vermont is the way to go without the plant restrictions. It's like, whatever, dude, we're not taxing. We're not regulating. It's legal if you're over 21 and leave us alone,
Thank you.
So that's, let's keep that model going because the rest, this is nonsense. This is ridiculous. What else is ridiculous is the messaging about these cartel grow operations are happening in Michigan too, right? So we're going to do a couple of stories. One's before we get through, this is it for Midwest, and then we'll do a couple of New York. We're getting down to, I'm going to have to go pick up Chella here pretty soon, but I want to do these too.
Yeah.
This is about this is from WXZY. Detroit Police and Customs Border Patrol bust $1 million marijuana grow operation. You've got a record marijuana grow operation too. Let's check it out.
Business as usual.
Pot bust.
This is a very, very sophisticated operation.
Police and Border Control seizing hundreds of plants that were part of a major grow operation in Detroit.
Tonight, what tipped law enforcement off and how many people are behind bars in connection to this operation.
It's our top story at 10.
And thank you for joining us tonight for 7 Action News on TV 20 Detroit.
Detroit police teaming up with Border Patrol to take down the illegal growing operation today. It came up after a tip that law enforcement officials literally sniffed out.
Investigator Simon Shakehead takes us inside the warehouse on the city's southwest side that is now closed for business. Simon.
Detroit police tell us they've recovered an unprecedented amount of illegal drugs being grown right here at this warehouse. In fact, there's so much of it, they say the street value exceeds $1 million.
Inside this highly advanced green garden, pot plants bear names like Gorilla Glue 4 and Star Dog. Turns out these drugs found inside multiple grow rooms are so potent, they also failed a smell test.
Border Patrol was doing an investigation last week and smelled a strong odor of marijuana coming from this clandestine building.
Soon after, police were all over this facility along West Jefferson. At about 4 p.m. today, they made their way inside, only to find a chronic case of whodunit. A handful of folks watching over the dope, but no one admitting it was theirs.
When they came in execution, the raid commander froze them, got them in custody.
High-tech lighting, a scientific laboratory, security cameras, and old-fashioned Ziploc bags are now all part of the evidence. Investigators say whoever's behind these fields of weed will have to face some sticky charges very soon.
Sticky. You can see from the lighting that they use, how it's on the timer and different things for the plants, for the marijuana grow. I would say a lot of man hours, a lot of money to put this together.
Police tell us right now a total of 6 people remain in custody in connection with this bust. They say they also worked hard on this case with cooperation from the United States Border and Protection Office. From downtown Detroit, Simon Shaquette, 7 Action News.
Okay, I'm just going to hold it right there because that right there, they should be hiring these guys to be running some of these operations that they're starting to set up. These guys should not be in jail. Right. They should be on ZipRecruiter.
Right. And I mean, like, they was showing how sophisticated this operation is. It seems like, what, don't these people got the money for one of those licenses, or what's going on? I mean, I see this is a thing about Detroit, is if they try to make this sound like this is something that just started happening for whatever reason recently, and they said it was a cartel or of some sort or whatever. Well, this is business as usual. A giant warehouse grow gets busted in Detroit just about every 6 months or so, man. And
don't give them a ticket, give them a license.
Right. I don't understand. And okay, we're gonna have a lot of problems with supply and medical marijuana over the next year.
Oh yeah, our labs are about to get a real bottleneck here. So but we'll be watching the Daily Dope Show. Make sure you guys, a couple of folks in the chat are saying they subscribed over there. So make sure you catch all the Michigan news as we watch this fun over there in Michigan. But here's the other side of that coin. And this really, why don't they just, these guys they just arrested, I think they should just go with this option with them right away. It'll save the taxpayers a lot of money.
A Detroit businessman originally from Jamaica is breathing a huge sigh of relief tonight after facing the threat of deportation.
He'd been charged with selling marijuana out of his restaurant, but the defense used in court changed everything.
7 Action News reporter Anu Prakash tells us what happened.
This all started last November when police raided Clyde Lawrence's restaurant. That's when he thought his American dream was over.
For me, right now, this is the most beautiful place you can be.
Clyde Lawrence beams with pride when he talks about his life in Detroit. He owns the restaurant Jamaica on West 7 Mile.
Business here is booming.
He's married with 2 young kids, originally from Jamaica, but came to Michigan from Texas 5 years ago to continue his American dream and because medical marijuana is legal here. But late last year, he was accused of selling marijuana out of his restaurant. Police raided it and found 9 ounces of pot.
It was about 15, 20 police, big guns drawn and all that.
Lawrence tried telling them he uses the marijuana for chronic pain, but he was arrested. He'll never forget what he thought in that moment.
It's over.
Lawrence was charged with a 4-year felony. Because he's not a U.S. citizen yet and in America on a green card, he knew he could be deported.
That would be a death sentence for me. My life is here.
Barton Morris with the Cannabis Legal Group is his attorney.
He hadn't received his medical marijuana card yet, but thankfully, Michigan law, the Medical Marijuana Act, says that if a physician is certified to you for the use of marijuana for medical purposes, then you have that defense.
And that's the defense Morris used in court. Just weeks before the raid, Lawrence had seen a doctor who recommended he use marijuana for his pain.
We demonstrated that there was a bona fide relationship with his physician that had certified him for the use of marijuana, that he was in possession of the marijuana for his personal medical use, that he uses quite frequently, quite often, in several different forms, and so the amount of marijuana that he had here wasn't unnecessarily large.
With the trial looming and deportation hanging over Lawrence just yesterday, the judge sided with him and dismissed the case.
I wasn't fighting for me. I was fighting for my kids, my family.
In Detroit, Anu Prakash, 7 Action News.
So there you go. I think the medical, there it is, the medical marijuana defense for 9 ounces. That bugger.
Just like that judge threw that out. A cop can just not even do the arrest in the first place.
You know, you only have to, I don't know, was it a felony? Is that a felony, what he was doing? It was, I guess 9 ounces is probably a felony, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So technically, I guess the
I mean,
cop
they
has to
automatically will
arrest.
say you're selling if you have over a certain amount. And I think that could be like as little as a ½ ounce in Michigan. They automatically just slap the manufacturing charge on there with it as
Just
well.
if you have it in
So,
possession.
yeah.
Wow.
If you had 9 ounces, they're going to give you a manufacturing and a distribution.
Son of
That's
a
just
gun.
how Michigan works.
Precedent, baby. Okay, we got precedent there, though. So that's exciting. You know,
Yeah, I mean, and it just shows these judges it's not being an activist judge to just throw a case out if you feel like, I mean, isn't that what we have judges for? Or do they have to just follow like a blueprint? Or, you know, that's not helping. A judge is a human being, so we should let them be human and make decisions like that.
True story. Let's move into the East Coast. Vegan Metro thinks I should take a break, go pick up Chella, and come back and finish the last 4 hours of the show. So I better get it moving.
I don't think I'll be able to come back, but
I'm sure he's being sarcastic because we're going to go to dinner as soon as I pick her up to one of our favorite places over there on some great place over there on the east side, west side. But let's just jump into some New Jersey and New York stuff, and then we'll get out of here because there's lots of stuff going on in Massachusetts, of course. A lot of coverage up there. That's going to be recreational is going to be legal this summer in Massachusetts.
They say July 1st.
July 1st. You may not be able to get your weed from the thing to burn, but it's going to be legal to buy it. And of course, New Jersey and New York are battling back and forth to see who's going to have the better marijuana program. New York medical marijuana sucks. It's a really shitty program. New Jersey is expanding its medical marijuana program. It's going to make it better. Phil Murphy talks about legalization. Here comes Cuomo with a study. New York may legalize too. So it's fast and furious on the East Coast. Let's take a look at a couple of stories and then get the fuck out of here. Sorry, Alexis.
Announced massive changes to New Jersey's medical marijuana program. In doing so, he loosened restrictions that many people had said limited the number of patients that had access to the state's program. He also opened the door for the possibility of new businesses to come to the state. The new list of conditions is much broader and includes things like chronic pain, anxiety, arthritis, migraines, and that's expected to drastically increase the number of people enrolled in the program. Currently, New Jersey has about 18,000 patients enrolled, and some experts expect that could expand to somewhere around 150,000 patients.
Yeah.
New Jersey has 6 medical marijuana businesses, but under Murphy's plan, these existing dispensaries are going to be able to expand to satellite locations across the state. That expansion would allow them to add another dispensary and another cultivation facility to what they already have, meaning that they could meet increased production demands. So the existing companies in New Jersey's medical marijuana program wouldn't be the only ones able to get in on this expanded industry. New companies would be eligible to apply for licenses in production, processing, and retailing, which has previously not been allowed. Another one of the biggest barriers to entry to New Jersey's medical marijuana program was eliminated in Murphy's expansion plan. That's the doctor registry. Any doctor that wanted to recommend marijuana to patients had to register with the state. And many doctors privately said they wanted to avoid the stigma and would not register with state. Sources are telling me that these changes may just be the very beginning of the expansion to New Jersey's medical marijuana program. Stick with NJ.com as more things develop.
Close.
NJ.com. Yeah, they've been watching it. So there you go. The battle of the medical marijuana. And then of course, they're hungry for doctors. They're looking for doctors. They're like, we need doctors, big doctors. We need very big doctors to get on board and actually prescribe the stuff. So it seems to be an issue. And hopefully they can, get more mainstream doctors. I mean, we see it all the time. We see the mains, look at that. You got one of the largest charitable organizations for seniors saying we need to talk to somebody about medical marijuana. And you have doctors every week getting a hold of my collective guy, regular doctors that don't prescribe, don't give the recommendation letters, but they want to get it into their pain management programs, or they want to get it, they have somebody that's asking about it.
Call Dr. Grinspoon.
Ask your doctor about cannabis. And then
isn't Dr. Grinspoon out there in Massachusetts? He can help you.
Dr. Grinspoon, is that the dude?
He's one of the most famous medical marijuana advocates in the medical community, I think.
Really?
Lester Grinspoon.
Interesting. Cool. Well, yeah. So let's get the shady guy. Let's get the weird guys, and they can stay. But thank you very much.
His son Peter too is also an activist.
Helpful.
He's awesome. Check him out sometime. Come on, Massachusetts doctors. You guys got allies at Harvard.
All right, so I'm just going to roll into a couple other stories here. We're keeping an eye on New Jersey and New York. Of course, the news will be hot and heavy over the next couple of weeks. So we'll get into it on other shows as it progresses. But there's apparently not only that they have a problem with synthetic marijuana, which is we've talked about that. It's like, it's not synthetic marijuana.
Hope we're done talking about this.
Yeah, well, it's not. This isn't. They've moved on.
The scourge continues.
They've moved on from spice. I guess they've given up. I don't know. They've given up this week. That's for sure. It's like it's inundated in the media. This must be the Sinclair broadcasting effect, because it's inundated in the media over a couple of 100%. Weeks, and then all of a sudden it just whoop, it's like appendicitis. It's gone. Never existed before ever in the history.
And
of
the
medicine.
fentanyl, you get a round of fentanyl laced this and that.
Right.
So
okay. So they've got
a new story about fentanyl laced something or Xanax 2 days ago.
Really? Fentanyl laced Xanax. We're putting it in everything, folks. It's good for all the drugs. Anything you want to get, you want to do, just throw that fentanyl in there. But this is something actually that we sort of talk about occasionally here on the show. Is the dilution or thinning of THC oil with carcinogenic stuff. And so there is an issue there. And also, and of course, this news story takes a more an angle on it that's more reefer madnessy. But the flavorings in these vape cartridges are a concern. I mean, our guy makes oil and uses his oil that he uses. It's the terpenes and the oil. You don't need to thin this stuff out with PG and VG and all this other garbage that causes flavors. Now, of course, they're trying to flavor it up because people are hooked on these nicotine flavors nonsense. So you don't need that, man. You get the good terpenes, man. You get those flavors of the limon and those, you get those flavors when you just use the oil.
The nature provided
baby.
You already with the flavors.
So the police are right, sort of.
Honeydew, mango, sour diesel.
Filled with fruity flavor, these sorts of vape cartridges also contain enough concentrated THC to send you to the emergency room with a psychotic episode.
No.
Stop right there.
Right. What? Say what?
Let's just, we not only do we need the pun counter, but we need the flashing bullshit alert.
Right.
That we can hit, right? And then just bleep, bleep.
The blatant,
bullshit,
crazy
bullshit. All right, here we go.
Gloucester Township Police seized about 3,000 marijuana oil cartridges during a traffic stop last week. Just as illegal as the leaf form of pot, 3 out-of-state men now face a slew of charges. But that's not why police held a news conference.
Perhaps most importantly, we strongly want to encourage parents to speak with their children about vaping and the ease at which they can ingest marijuana with these devices.
Cleverly labeled pandemic, drug experts say vape pens like these are heading in the direction of creating a pandemic in schools. A 2016 Surgeon General report showed a 5-year increase of 900% in teen use of electronic cigarettes and vape pens.
When you're dealing with something that looks like something that could be typical office supplies, no one's aware of what to do.
Timber Creek High School principal Kasha Giddens says she and other school leaders throughout the country are in a battle against vaping products that are discreet, appeal to teens, and can contain drugs.
If you've got something that smells like pineapples or blueberries, and maybe you go into the bathroom after students use the bathroom, you might think it's just body spray.
Police and school officials say they need parents to help teach kids about the dangers of vaping, especially since marijuana cartridges are becoming more available, not only from illegal producers, but from other states where marijuana is legal. And since New Jersey is considering legalizing pot, teens could have even greater access to the drug.
Our approach today is to get parents to speak with their children as the first step before, if and when legalization happens in New Jersey, we need to have this issue under control before that happens.
Maybe they should talk now.
You need to get control of your frickin' hat is what you need to get control of. I never get the troopers that wear this kind of hat.
No, those are weird. I mean, they don't got control of anything. So prohibition, you have zero control over whether these vape cartridges are legitimately tested to see if they're safe, if the companies or the people that are making them are putting any kind of dangerous ingredients in there.
And that's not even the angle. That's not even the angle. Their angle is THC.
Unregulated market. So if he's saying there's a rise in all these vape products in your high schools or whatever in an unregulated market, then you might have a little bit of something to be concerned about. But if you're in a situation like in California or where there is regulated vape cartridges, you should basically have like a pretty good expectation of safety. But like you said, some of these flavors are kind of iffy, you know, and I don't know. And these guys can't get a control over this. What are they trying to do?
Well, here's the thing. So a couple of things. The 900% increase in teen vaping is conflating with the nicotine vaping problem, tobacco. There's plenty of flavors in that too. I find it curious that the story about the anti-cannabis story used popular flavors of cannabis like pineapple and blueberry, as in pineapple kush and blueberry or blue, you know. So, you know, you've got this one problem where you have this rise of teen vaping, discrete teen nicotine vaping, in a regulated system with supposedly with cigarettes, because that's stopped teen smoking, right? Although teen smoking is supposedly down, but you know, due to lack of advertising or whatever one you call it, they're transitioning to cannabis, which I think is a great idea. So yeah, I'd say, hey, is that a cannabis vape? Great, move on. But but here's the thing: they're conflating the two. They are, if you know, and I don't get it. If the teachers and the parents are, why is this vaping such a problem? I mean, they walk around in a fucking cloud like Pigpen. You know, they love it. They make videos. There's a guy that's like the Olympic vapor.
Yeah.
Have you seen this cat? It's crazy. I'm like, that's CG. That's fake news. There's no way that guy's doing what that's doing. And if you were ingesting that much marijuana, you'd be baked. And there'd be making no rings with that smoke, dude. That's like gas mask level smoke he's taking into his vaping, and that's all garbage.
Yeah.
It's nicotine, it's PG, it's VG, and all these vaping champions are going to end up with popcorn lung, and it's going to have nothing to do with cannabis.
I'm just glad I quit smoking cigarettes, and I didn't start vaping when I did. This was like a year ago in February I quit. And I just quit cold turkey, but I decided before I decided to not smoke anymore that I wasn't gonna vape, because that to me is just garbage, you know. And it leaves like a weird taste too, like the conduit was like a maple syrup kind of tasting thing. And I don't know if that's the actual glycerides or if that's like something else that they added to it, but it's not that good to have that stuck in your clothes, just like cigarette smoke or whatever.
Right.
But yeah, man, I don't see how they can conflate the two. If kids vape, for one, the weed, am I right or wrong about this? Because I don't really vape weed either. Weed vapes generally aren't like those big boxes those huge boxes that have giant batteries that you can literally just sit there and suck on it for 5 minutes to get, like you were saying, that literal cloud of vapor around. Like, I don't see too many marijuana vaping products that are like that. Like,
well,
I don't see why they don't do that.
They don't necessarily market them like that, but there are units you can get, and you can just take the pure cannabis oil, just like you have in the small one, like they use this for,
well, I have done some vaping in vape pens that were made for oils and waxes like that you make yourself, But the ones with the cartridges, on the other hand, is mainly what I'm talking about, I guess.
Well, yeah, the markup on like a 3 gram vial of cannabis oil, to fill up your big tank, would be so much. It's cost restrictive. These already are very expensive, as is everything in the recreational market.
But it's more to just buy the liquid.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think, I'm looking at, I actually want to get get the wholesale. It'd be nice to get the wholesale oil and you just refill it.
Right.
That's a way to do it, but they don't really sell, you have a limit amount of how much you can sell, according to state law. So it's really not cost effective. You can't market it and put it in a 3 or 4 gram vial that has, 3,000 grams of cannabis in it, because you can't sell that much. So, but you can do it. You can do it if you have a source for the oil. But here's the thing: most of these oils, at least in a regulated system or in a legitimate, good collective that tests and puts through their oil through the rigors of good quality medicine, you're getting quality cannabis oil with no pesticides, no garbage in it, and then these companies, the shady companies that are not doing that, they're throwing in the PG to thin it out and make more money on it. So know your source, know your dose. Yeah, it's just, I think it's cost prohibitive for that. Timbuktu, thanks for joining in, buddy. You've hung on for 3 hours. I can see how you'd want to get off. We're moving on. We're moving through the news because the conversation's been very stimulating, and screw these videos. We talk about real stuff, right? And as I do with Chella, but it's nice to have input on somebody who's been in the space for 30 years. Chella and I are essentially neophytes trying to mainstream and normalize its use as a medicine. And when you recreate, you medicate. So let's move on let's just do another. I'm going to skip Massachusetts. There's so much news. We'll get into Massachusetts later.
We love you though, Massachusetts.
We do love you, Massachusetts. And I think that's what I'm just gonna wrap up the show, Brandon. It's been a long show.
You gotta pick up Chella. Tell her I said hi, and
I will.
I'll see you next time.
I'm not gonna eat because we're gonna go out to dinner after I pick her up. But she will say, you went even longer without me. Oh no. But it's just been great. Brando the Commando, the Daily Dope Show, on YouTube, on Twitter, on D-Live, or rather on Steam It, sort of getting things rolling over there. But you're all over the place. Subscribe, get notifications to his channel. I know you're busy out there in Flint, my brother, and we can talk about that someday too.
Hell yeah.
And what's just in outside of the cannabis world. But you keep up the good work in all the areas, and we'll keep watching the Daily Dope Show and listening to look forward to the weekly podcast maybe coming back. But I always look forward to one of your videos dropping, because I know I'm going to get good information about Michigan.
Hell yeah.
Or something about the drug war. That's awesome. So I thank you so much for taking Chella's spot in the co-host chair today. And thanks everybody for watching. This is, of course, DC 420 LA, the Week in Weed, on YouTube, Facebook, Periscope, Twitch, D-Live, and on Weed TV, the Cannabis Media Network. Do whatever you got to do on whatever social network you're on to follow, like, share, upvote, re-steam, or whatever. And come back here every Sunday live at 4:20 Pacific for our 6-hour marathon of cannabis, when we talk about marijuana in the mainstream media, the politics of pot, and cannabis cures on DC 420 LA. Pot for peace, everybody. Thanks, Brandon. See you next time.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good one.
Peace.
All right.
Word. Here come the toys. Oh, we got to go from the beginning. Here we go.
Murderers keep murdering, the churches keep a-burning, the rapists keep a-raping, and the tide ain't turning. Uncle Sam, for all your power. every hour. It seems to me your energies are wasted, chasing my friends and me. So hey, Uncle Sam, hey there, Uncle Sam, leave us pot smokers alone. Uncle Sam, leave us pot smokers alone. The terrorists keep terrorizing, our leaders keep a lying, the haters keep a hating, and the planet's dying. Uncle Sam, do what's proper, call off your dogs and your helicopters. The problems of society were not caused by my friends and me. So hey, Uncle Sam, hey there, Uncle Sam, leave us pot smokers alone. Uncle Sam, leave us pot smokers alone. How many innocent people gonna be imprisoned? We just peace and love and street pop and brotherhood freaks. A touch of Mother Nature never made nobody violent, never made nobody hate nobody or break nobody's peace. Since we've never been shown to be harmful, don't you tell me no lies with your caffeine, codeine, nicotine eyes. The cannabis ban is just recent, just since 1938 to legalize it, realize it. You made a big mistake. Hey, Uncle Sam, hey there, Uncle Sam, leave us pot smokers alone. Uncle Sam, leave us pot smokers alone. Uncle Sam, leave us pot smokers alone. Leave us pot smokers alone. Uncle Sam, understand I love you, but leave me alone. Smokers alone. Leave us pot smokers alone. Our leaders keep lying. Leave us pot smokers alone. Terrorists keep terrorizing.
Smoke weed every day.
This drug is dangerous. You cannot play with it. It's not funny. It's not something to laugh about. And trying to send that message